And we're back with a question and answer session with Execute, Algrid, and Trist with our After Dark session. If you want to know, the actual discussion we had before, it'll be above Algrid's head. That is we talked about the ships of Invictus, the 5 new ships that are coming out for Invictus, possibly. And this is our question and answer session where I take questions from the chat and we just go straight on to answer them. But before I do, make sure you check out Trist on Tristpone at just like that. That is Trist PWN on YouTube, and you can check out myself, X, and Algrid on InfoRunners at youtube.com/InfoRunners and twitch.tv/InfoRunners, where we stream and do videos on stuff like this. So.
And of course, you've got the Law Citizen podcast, which Paul also does.
Yes, on the
Which does need to be resurrected, but there are some really good episodes.
People still watch it. So see people come back and necro the comments sometimes. So that's on the youtube.com/theastrohistorian. So check that out.
Ones like that are like 4 or 5 years after you've done an episode, and they go, "Well, this aged well," and it's like, "Well, it's 5 years ago."
Yeah,
that was the information we were carrying at the time.
Yeah. And I'll say that now. If anything comes up here that people are like, well, this is off. It's like we only use what information we have at the time with what we can to make up to figure out what was the best with the information available. The problem is when you're in game development or when you follow game development, it's a moving target because game development itself is like usually 6 months to 2 years is the best they can estimate. Mm-hmm. So generally, if anything takes longer than 2 years, they don't know. And things can change on a drop of a hat, especially with CIG. From what I've understood from my own internal context of CIG, from following CIG, ideas can be proposed in January and completely changed by June because of various factors. So that's
look at all the ship changes we've actually seen that have actually come out to the public. That just shows you everything right there.
I think the classic is, pupil to planet.
Yeah.
That change for everything.
Yeah.
That change. Literally everything.
All right. So the first question is a spicy one, because this is, for those you don't know how the context for, if you haven't already seen the drama everywhere. The team at ISC did a SCL, pre-recorded SCL, specifically for the Chinese bar citizen. Someone's saying it was Beijing bar citizen. I don't know. They did a video where Jared talked with John Crew, and they asked specific questions that were presented by the Chinese community to John about ships and other things like that. And as always with these Chinese bar citizens, I believe in the past, I was like, is there something like different with the community in China or something like that? Because I'm like every time there's a Chinese bar citizen and devs are involved, there's all these wild ass things that come out being like, by the way, Star Citizen is coming to console. And it's like, what? Where did this come from? Yeah, look, Sandy says that Star Citizen's going to the PS5. And it was like, where did that come? And then it turns out that she made a joke or a comment about controllers or something like that, and it got completely blown out of proportion.
Lost in translation.
Yeah. And so I think what it is that anything you hear that is not directly from that video is almost certainly a bad translation of something. So do not take it as gospel, anything that comes out of it that's not actually like backed up with John Crew saying it exactly like that. So keep that in mind. But the questions were, it seems there's always been some type of rift between CIG and the community as far as sharing information. What are some better ways for CIG to communicate with the community at large? And that's combined with another question with Northern Trooper, who asks, what are your thoughts of CIG giving out information at Bar Citizen rather than their official channels of communication, i.e. Spectrum, ISC, SCL, etc.? Example, Beijing's Bar Citizen recently. So, Al, I'll have you start off this one.
Okay.
So, because the main question is basically, is it okay for CIG to be giving information out at bar citizens, and should they streamline this as a way? How can they streamline information so that people feel like they can get that information and don't have to like go out to a special event to be able to get this information?
Yeah, it's that why does CIG the simple version is why does CIG suck at communication?
Mhm.
Is the layperson's way of saying that. I actually don't like. While it's frustrating to have information given at bar citizens or have have them talk to people at things like CitizenCon or otherwise, I actually prefer that to having to go to a third party site like Reddit to find information.
Mhm.
At least at a bar citizen, it is in effect an official bar citizen event. If CIG are there and do stuff and reveal stuff, it's in a sense official. But it poses that problem of if it's released at, say, the bar citizen, what is, when do we get that in to the English speaking community if it's a Beijing bar citizen?
It
When
could
do we
also
get
be
those?
anywhere. It could
when
be
do-
at like Beacon or
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
going to
So
Quantum Vegas and we're going to have devs there, so there could be some stuff that Sean Tracy says or
Yep.
Tyler
So
says.
I'll if I do a video like that for a bar citizen, whether it's Beijing, Paris, Germany, England, Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, because that's the arse end of the world.
I ain't ever come here, bro.
You know it's true. You know it's true.
No.
Our Prime Minister said so.
We'll see.
Oh,
you mean the RSN? Yeah, it's definitely the RSN. But I mean, they're never coming here. I don't even think they'll come here for a holiday. Most Australians don't come here for a holiday.
Sandy might. She's a South Australian. That's kind of in that realm of world.
We'll see.
But if I do stuff like that and do a video for that, where we're answering questions, it would be nice to see them put that on Spectrum, because that's their official channel. So I've got no problem with them doing it at bar citizens. It'd just be nice to see them put it on the main channel. I think they're getting better at the information at times, but for a company with 1,000 employees, if you get someone talking, they will talk about things they can talk about, and they may get things wrong, or they may, because of what they say, it may be taken out of context by other people because they're not able to talk about everything in detail.
Trist, your thoughts on this? How can CIG streamline information or get better, and should they be sharing information at these citizen cons or at these bar citizens?
First of all, I think they should. You want these events to be special for the people attending it and have at least something that makes this event worth their while, except for stuff they have already heard. But then again, I think a lot of this problem is coming from how this company is structured. Usually, I know more about the film industry than about the game industry, but usually you don't have the people work on the game be the same people that are so excited about what they're doing and also communicating about it. Usually the guys that do the films, that do the actual work on the films, they just do their job. There's not this kind of enthusiasm that these developers have. And so since they are so close to us and what they want and their dreams and their achievements, that gets us these issues that they always say stuff they want and mix it up with the stuff that is actually happen and doable. And at the end of the day, it's part of what makes this special for me. If they all have had perfect communication, these shows wouldn't happen. I just have made my peace with them having weird communications for our good.
Yep.
X. I'll reiterate the question. Should they be sharing information at bar citizens, and how can they streamline or improve?
Well, I'll kind of start mine off with a question and say, how many episodes have you, me, and our grid personally sat down on Infrunners and done on CIG's lack of communication over the years? I think it's like 4 or 5 at this point. I think there's some massive problems at CIG, and I think it's because when it comes to communication, I think it's because they have a lot of rotating people over the years. It's never really been stable. They've fundamentally been working on Squadron this whole time, not really Star Citizen. And it's only in the last couple of years that are now pivoting to work on that. I think they are slowly moving to be better communicators. I think there's some drastic things that they need to change. Like Argrid said, if they want Spectrum to be this one-stop shop, then they need to up the way Spectrum works. Nobody goes there.
Mhm.
Nobody. Like just nobody, because it is just so full of crap. I've been screaming
There
for
are
years
people
about
who-
downvoting arrows.
There are people who go there, but it's the same 30 to
It's the same
100
5 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because you can't get rid of their shit. And no matter, like, I remember sitting, and I'm not going to call out who the dev was, but I remember sitting, the first Bar Citizen we went to Algrid, and I remember sitting down with this dev, and he just said, no, I don't think we need downvoting arrows, because then people get dogpiled on. But how do you tell those people that they're being an idiot, or they're saying the wrong thing, or something that you disagree with? The best way to do that is an anonymous downvoting arrow. Because what you get is people on there doing all the face palms, or all that type of thing. So that's Spectrum. And that is their main communication platform. It needs a massive overhaul, because nobody uses it because of that problem. Then you've got the problem where they'll do a post on Twitter or Facebook, and you've got to now be on multiple different platforms to get every little bit of information. They need to make it so if they put a piece of information out, it goes out to everything. So I would hope that video that they did for the Beijing community, I heard it was Shanghai, not Beijing, but
I don't know which
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Somewhere in China, and
Yes.
China's a very big place. I'm not insulting China. I'm just
I didn't know which one
was.
it is, so it's one of those like I didn't know. Someone said
Yeah.
Beijing, someone said you're saying Shanghai, so whichever city it is, it is there.
Yeah. And I fully agree that they should be included in this. I'd like to see a lot more localization happen. Like there's a massive French community. I know Argrid might be able to talk this a bit as well.
Massive.
When me and Argrid come on the peak time at night, the most common people are French people. There are so many of them, right? And I have never heard of them getting like their own unique Bar Citizen. But again, I think the pitch to the Chinese is they see it as a new market to push into, and there's a lot of people there where essentially the French, just much like the English, have been tapped. So they're trying to tap a new market. That's essentially why they're going into Shanghai so much, or China in general. But from a communication perspective, they are learning, much like everything else. They are improving. They're just glacial at doing it, and I think a lot of it's got to do with there's just so many moving staff. Like over the years, it's any game development studio, they lose people and gain people, they cycle and churn people through, and they just haven't really got to the point where Star Citizen needed that communication, because it was all Squadron, it was all closed off, it was all locked down. But now we're getting to that point where, like, it would have been nice to have, but now we're getting to the point where Star Citizen's really kicking into gear. And you're going to see it pick up in speed, and as it picks up in speed, they're going to need better communication. And I think, how do I put this? As the company's got bigger, it's become uglier.
Mhm.
I think the easiest way to explain that is, like, you can think of every company that you've ever think of that's ever existed. That's happened to all of them.
Mhm.
And I just think at some point someone needs to take a little bit more control of the reins, and they need to be unified in their communication. I think that's the biggest problem I have, is it's not unified.
Yeah.
There's no one-stop shop, and that's it's very different from what you and I would have talked about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago was just like, just talk to us, right? And it was the same thing when me and Argid, when we sat down with Ben and John, a lot of the questions we had been sitting there for 10, 15 years. They were really like there was things that we just speculated on, that we just wanted a real simple yes or no to, and they confirmed so much of them that we were just like, oh, like, we were pretty sure we were correct, and we were correct on almost the stuff we said. And the thing that always kicked me was, we got back to the hotel, and I'm like, oh, I should ask this.
Yeah.
But there's just so many things that we wanted to ask, that just, like, they need a way to submit questions. And I mean that in a way that's not Spectrum, because your Spectrum is broken, right? like if I get another will this fit in this ship question, I think I'm going to lose my mind, because they are wasted. They are all so wasted, and until you put downvoting arrows in, it is not going to satiate what the community most wants answered, because there is no way for it to rise to the top. You cannot, like, you've only got to do 5 minutes of history of how Google search works, and only 70% of people go to the second page. That means 30% of people are trying to upvote questions on the second page and fight the 70 people that never going to work. 30 versus 70, never going to work. And I sound like a broken record. I know I'm a broken record, but unless they want Spectrum to be what they want it to be, and they want that to be the place where you have to be democratic. You have to be able to tell someone that they are wrong. The exchange of good ideas, and it is a fundamental tenet of the info runners that we almost demand disagreement from each other, right? Because if you don't have that disagreement, Paul will tell you, Algrid will tell, I'm pretty sure Trispone's even been on episodes with us, will tell you that if you cannot stand up and tell someone you disagree with them, you cannot have that intellectual train of thought where the compromise comes out, the agreement comes out. If you have people just lording over other people, nobody turns up to Spectrum. That is the answer. Nobody turns up. You've got to be able to.
You have to engage. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I will. See, people are like, move on. It's like, I'm letting execute. Sweet.
I get really built up about it. Like really aggravated by it.
This specific topic is one of X's bugaboos. So, I'll go real quickly and then I'll let Trist finish us off on this one. But I believe that, or you think you already talked about this, didn't you, Trist? You already said something?
Yeah.
You did. Okay, so yeah. I was remember because it's like I was agreeing with what Trist said earlier. You need to have a reason when people show up to these events. Like you need to have a reason. And here's the thing. You're not going to stop CIG. CIG leaks like a sieve. All right? Like it is the reason why Squadron 42 isn't been like blasted into your eardrums by every major content creator over the last 12 years, like plot points, is because CIG has not only leaked the entirety of the story multiple times and the entire source, the entire like baseline code multiple times, but there's also been people talk about it all the time because they think it's cool, like, and the only reason we haven't seen it is because most content creators are smart enough to be like, I don't want to deal with that lawsuit if I start posting this on YouTube. Or also just like, hey, I don't want to spoil other people's experiences. So you're never going to stop CIG from talking at these events. They're going to talk about the cool shit they're doing because they're artists, and this is the place where they can express what they do. So, they're going to talk. And if they're going to talk, they might screw up here and there and say things they're not supposed to, or they'd be like, hey, we got something cool coming up. You got to pay attention to it, and that's.
And part of that comes from the fact that so many of the CIG employees
are fans,
are gamers like us who were playing the game and ended up working there. Like we had the experience. We're in CIG offices with Sandy. Sandy's asking the guys for help, and one of them cuts Sandy off and says, "I've got to say something. I'm working at CIG because of you guys, because we made them actually look at the game other than being a scam."
And I've never been shut up so much in my entire life. It was so awkward. I was just like,
I've had the people.
I just remember the way Sandy and I both responded. It was
it was like him
together.
And Sandy and
is that a good?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Is that a good thing?
I hope it's a good thing. But yeah, so like you're never going to stop people from doing that. Like people are going to talk about citizens. That's just what's going to happen at these events. But also in terms of CIG needs to, especially as they're going into Squadron 42, needs to have some better discipline when it comes to communications, official communications. Like this example of like this Chinese bar citizen, it's fine. I think there's nothing wrong with them doing an ISC for the Chinese bar citizen, because it's also one of those events that's like rivals citizen cons in terms of attendance. That's the reason why CIG keeps doing this, because every time they hear about them, they're like 3,000 people showing up to these events. So So CIG is seeing those numbers and going, we have a fan community who is underserved in China. We need to make sure we're sending developers to these places. To give you context, like even like 100 people is, I don't even know. Like I think Beacon had like 400 people at most, and that was probably one of the bigger ones.
I don't know. I don't know about you, Paul, but over the years, me and Argrid have multiple people that have contacted us, and they are literally have asked us if they can translate and then re-put our shows up. We do know there's a Chinese one, and
there are four people who've contacted me. Someone from Russia, someone from China, someone from Germany, and someone from France who actively asked me if they could just dub over my voice for more content for lore videos. So like, there's a huge community outside the US that doesn't speak English, so
we have the same. Yeah.
Starjump Grim said a point in the chat there. He says that John Crew was in extra sharing mode during that ISC. But John Crew is fairly disciplined. He doesn't talk about things he's not allowed to.
Mhm.
And we can speak to that because there were a couple of questions where he said, hey, can you talk about that? And he said, no.
Yeah.
Right. So anything that I think John Crew says, I think is stuff that he could talk about. And if he can't talk about it, he doesn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, like CIG needs to, I think, like for that event, that video should be published. In my opinion, it should be published on a website on Monday, or like on YouTube, because it's already done. Like, why not? Like, people are going to find out about it anyways, and it would kill a lot of the lost in translation rumors that come out all the time. So just post it for everybody else to see. So it's already done.
It's all recorded. Just take the subtitles off. And
I did see someone in chat say, "Are we aware that it's going to be published during Invictus?"
I've heard that rumor, but I don't know where it came from. Because I watched the video.
Why would it be put up during Invictus? Because they've got to do the ships during Invictus, so that don't make no sense. It would have to be after at this stage.
Grim posted somebody's cell phone footage of the whole video, and we watched it live before this, and I didn't see anywhere in that video where they said they were going to post this video at Invictus. It was just someone saying Jared said it in the video, but I didn't see it in the video. So you'd have to give me a timestamp for when he said that. He did talk about how they were going to do some more stuff at Invictus. Maybe I just missed it. But either way, that's something like that's probably needs to be going out in those sort of things, especially if it's a video content, because it's just video content.
Yeah, I would have hoped that something like that would come out sooner rather than being held for a thing.
But that's about it. Like other than that, like there needs to be more direct. Everything that's official, and one of the problems I have right now is like they pick and choose their social medias that they want to post stuff on. So like they posted a trailer on like Snapchat or Instagram. They didn't post on Twitter or Facebook or Blue Sky or anywhere else.
That's exactly what I mean. That's what I mean about be a consistent message, because I'm not going to follow you on Twitter, Snapchat, Blue Sky, every damn Instagram, Facebook thing under the sun. Like pick one. And by the same token, why isn't there a post on Spectrum about it?
Yeah.
Like you can literally like how is it not an oxymoron to post it going, here's this information, you click the link and it takes you to Spectrum.
Another great example,
feeding people to your own platform.
Another great example of why this doesn't work is I posted a video, or I played a little snippet of the video from the Squadron 42 newsletter from January where they did the music.
Right.
Because I was like, this music is great. And people were like, oh yeah, this is great music. Where did you find this? And I said, it's on their website or it's on their YouTube.
Yeah.
And I turn over and look at it. It's still unlisted.
Yeah.
It's an unlisted video. And it's like,
they have there was a What in Star Citizen video that was
which is unlisted. Yeah. So it's like, why are you unlisting these videos and not posting them in places where people can find them? Like, there needs to be a place where these sorts of repository information, there needs to be an archive. And it's not like they don't have an archivist on staff who could help them figure this out.
But the problem is the archivist on staff is probably run off their feet doing all the archiving.
Yeah, she is definitely doing all the other stuff, but
The other thing that would be really good for their videos is actually have it broken down with the content, so you can actually find stuff, because the naming convention of a videos sucks.
I love Jared, but like just hire Darsh. Darsh has literally done this already, where he went through and broke down a bit of spreadsheet of all of the videos and all of the.
Well, he better be applying for the job then, because they're looking for people. Last week's video,
are they?
Yeah, he should apply.
Huh?
Yeah, at the end of last week's video, they had we're looking for more people to work on.
Yeah, that was
at Thingo.
That was like game capture artists though. So like their job is to like capture footage in games like that. I mean, what Darsh did was literally just archived all of the videos of ISC and Wingman's Hangar and a bunch of other things like that, and then what were the topics and the timestamps of all of those topics and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
they don't put enough tags on their videos either.
No.
As far as I can find, they don't do any tagging whatsoever. So you can't just type in
Idris.
And it shows you every Idris video. Yeah. And then on top of that, he'll name it something. The one I always use references the Santucky Owl, which is what he called it. But that now you can't look up Santucky Eye. And it's just like we used to do pun videos, to the fact that he's actually used some of our puns as video titles later on. But we stopped doing it because we realized people couldn't find videos and stuff. And as soon as we went to more direct naming conventions, so to speak, the watch history of our videos just skyrocketed because people were able to find them. So you go back and try and find a video, like I can tell you right now, Star Jump Grim was trying to find footage of the Argo UFO, and I had to crowdsource it. I literally had to go into Infrunners and say, guys, I am looking for this, and it only took them like half a week to find it, but they found it. The UFO video.
It only took half a week. Yeah.
But it would have taken me forever. I would have sat there and had to watch every video.
All right, let's move on from this topic because I think we've beat this topic to death.
Yeah.
And I'm going to skip this next one because we've already talked about it. Rixby asks, do you feel the Asgard is more of a Valkyrie Mark II electric boogaloo or a legitimate variant that won't bury the Valkyrie? We literally talked about that in our previous video, again, above there with Algrid's head. So if you want to know about that, we talked about it. I think this is from like when we first started talking in the last section. So they probably already answered that question for them. Pasternak 1933 asks, hypothetical question, assuming the rumored changes to RSI Perseus are true, and it's going from 4 size 7 guns and 2 turrets to 2 size 8 mounted guns, how do you think this will affect the concept? This is a rumor. Again, this is one of those lost in translation rumors, possibly. It's one of those, John Crew apparently said it at a Chinese Citizen Con. I don't think that's true until we have, like, take it as rumor until otherwise it happens, because the what that would do would change the crew complement, because before it was 4 people crew, pilot, torpedo gunner, and then the 2.
Sorry. Why would it? If you're just making the guns go from size 7s to size 8s, how does that change? It's not
changes size 7, size 8s. It's removing one of the turrets, and so instead of having 2 turrets with each with 2 size 7 guns, it's now 1 size turret with 2 size 8 guns.
Well, that would destroy it. Yeah. It would be such a huge weakness.
Yeah,
I could see it changing to be 2 turrets with 1 size 8 gun, because the size 8's doing more damage, and
that I could see.
And that I could see. And I just think the reasoning would be a balance as they're going through. They're saying this ship is no longer fitting the role, fulfilling the role we want it to do. A bit like the kind it used to have base guns with size 4. Now it's base of size 5.
The yieldy gun creep, where like size 1s are now pretty much pointless. Why do we even have size 1s? Maybe we should just change the damage characteristics back down where they should be. But that's just me though.
Well, I struggle with that type of thing as well. But it's that trying to get the ships to fit the role or where they're supposed to go, and So I don't have a problem with the gun size going up as ruining the ship if it's part of that balance idea. But going from 2 turrets to 1 turret with 2 size 8s would wreck the ship. Going from 2 size 7s to 1 size 8 on each turret, I don't think would change it.
Someone's saying Perseus is a destroyer. It's a gunship. It's not a destroyer. The Perseus's job is literally, and again, I know X has talked about this before, where it's like the lore doesn't really matter, but the lore is literally written around the role. It's written around what CIG has designed for it. It's the last thing that they put into it. It's the first thing they talk about. It's the last thing they actually add to it. And so the Perseus itself, in terms of lore, it's literally called a subcap slayer. That was its nickname. So its design was to fight large ships. It's designed to punch down. It's designed to be a bully. So
it's called a heavy gunship, is its official role.
Yeah. So it's not going to be slinging. You're not slinging a Perseus against like an Idris and coming out with that fight fair. Like it can do that, but it's designed to bully smaller ships. It's designed to be a bastard, is what it is. And so like, do I think that the changes make sense? Maybe. Like, I don't know. I don't have the CIG's data sheets on there, but how many times has CIG changed the size of weapons in the past? Like, fucking, they changed it like last minute with the damn what was it? The new we just talked about it. The Intrepid. They changed that gun like last minute. So who's to say CIG doesn't change it down or make it size 9s?
And who's to say that they don't go, like they try the size 8s and they go, it's not working, and they go back, or so John Crew may have said, it's getting size 8s,
or he could have,
That's only saying.
Good.
That's only saying at this point in time.
Yeah. And it could also been a question that was like, do you think he's going to get a higher number of bigger guns, and him saying we're looking into it or something like that, because like I'm sure
we're looking into it having size 8s.
Yeah, that's it.
They'll do what is required for gun balance or gameplay balance. Really, I don't really have a problem with that. I can't envision a single ship, or not a single ship, but there's going to be ships that they're going to have to go back to after all they're all said and done, type of thing, that they're going to have to change, bring up guns and downs like that, and that'll happen over the years, like in any game.
Yeah, and so like, there's no point in really saying like, because like, will it change the role of the ship? Probably not. It'll probably just change it. It like its role will always be the same. Like the purpose of the Perseus is for 4 people to fuck around in a ship and be able to handle any smaller ship. Maybe not really fighters, but like medium and large ships, and ships of its own size, and maybe punch a little bit up at larger ships. But it's not like it's not going to be the ship you buy when you're like, well, I'm going to go fight a Bengal carrier with my Perseus. Like, that's never going to be its role. So it doesn't matter what weapons it has, as long as its role stays the same, unless that role drastically changes.
Yep. I remember Ben saying years and years ago, you've just got to look at what the role we say the role is, not worry about anything else.
Yeah.
We'll make sure it fits into the role and the purpose we said it would be.
Trist,
right.
Your thoughts on it?
I was about to say, can we just check for signs of life on Trist, please?
No, I'm afraid I'm just afraid I don't have an opinion with enough knowledge behind it on that. I don't own any of those big ships.
Okay. All right. Then I'll hit you with this next one. No, I'm not going to hit you with this next one, because this next one is specifically for Algrid. Citizen Dance asks, when is everyone shaving their head like Algrid? The best looking one on the stream.
That's not for me. That's for you guys.
When my wife tells me to shave my head, you'll have to convince my wife that I go bald.
Yep.
That's she's the ruler with my hair. And X is
with a cap. X had the cap.
Yeah. X is Board Gamer's twin brother. So.
Yep.
And Trist, man, he's got the best dome of us all. Look at that.
Look at that shiny
Maybe
dome.
I may have long hair. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, it's a mystery.
All right, so I'll hit you with this question there, Trist. With bombs able to replace missiles, will the Eclipse be able to swap to bombs or maybe smaller missiles? What do you think?
It's torpedoes, not missiles.
What's the question? Should it or will it?
Will it? Because one of the things that they talked about was that they are swapping out some of the missile pylons for bomb pylons for some of the ships. So the question is, like, do you think they'll be able to do the same thing with like torpedoes of the Eclipse.
To me, it would fit better just because that ship is designed after a bomber and not a torpedo boat.
Mhm.
And I would like to see more use for bombs in game. But if they will, they would. I don't know.
I will echo what I think X will probably say when it comes to X and Al will say when it comes to this, is that it's got the same problem the Gladiator has. If you wanted to swap out the internal bay of the Gladiator, it would have to fit the bomb sizes. And as far as I know, CIG is like, it's such a bespoke asset that they can't really swap that out easily. It would have to completely redesign the bomb bay to make it work, the torpedo bay to make it work. So same thing would be with the Eclipse. If it's not designed for it, I don't think so. I think we're only getting external pylons for the bombs if we get anything.
I have to go back and have a look at it, but I'm pretty sure there's some ships where if you change them from missiles to bombs, they would bomb themselves. Because of where they're like under a wing, but then there's a wing under that, so you drop it onto the wing below you and stuff like that. So, but like say something like the Gladius, for example, you could take the missiles off and put bombs on.
Mm-hmm.
That'd work really well. The best one I've heard so far that I actually came up with myself, which was the Razor one, the stealth Razor.
Mm-hmm.
You take the missiles off that and put bombs on that. That works really well.
Mm-hmm.
Stealth bomber, literally.
You know, the missile pylons turning into bomb racks actually can make the Gladiator a bomber because it's got the external racks.
Yep, it's got the outside large racks, huge numbers of racks.
Yeah. So you could actually have larger bombs on that and still keep the torpedoes. That could be one way CIG are answering that question I've had. No, with the bomb bays and the torpedo bay in those two ships is just too large an area for bombs. The size differential just too big. One way you could do it is change it, is make those torpedo bays modules, and you swap that out and put a module in. It's got, say, an extra component or extra batteries as well as the bombs. So there are ways they could do it, but it does mean a lot more work than just swapping a rack.
Yeah. Shifty says the Gladiator can't carry bombs because it has size 4 pylons. Size 3 bombs exist. It's size 3 and size 5. So you can.
There are there's new size 3s in the hall.
Yeah,
they were there. I sent a picture. I sent a picture to Algrid actually.
Yeah. So there's size 3s. So you could definitely pit, because if it's a size 4 pylon, then you can fit, I think, 2 size 3s. So it could, if there's 2 size
4 pylon would be 414.
Yeah.
2 size 3 and 4 size 2. So
yeah, 2 size 3. So it would be, if they have two missile pylons and you can replace them with that, you could carry 4 bombs. So it actually keeps the A1 to be the best bomber for that size, but it allows the Gladiator to become multi-role. So
to actually allows the Gladiator to do that thing that in lore it could do. It could bomb and it could, so yeah.
To get back to the original question, though, it is the Eclipse. The Eclipse has torpedoes, not missiles. Yeah. So no, you cannot put bombs on the Eclipse.
Nope.
Unless they're on the. Does it have missiles on the outer frame? No, it doesn't. It's only got the 2 Gatlings. So no bombs.
So
yeah.
And due to that reason that Paul pointed out, that
same on the Gladiator. Yep.
Yeah. And same Gladiator, same with the all of the torpedo bombers. They all have the same problem.
It would be a variant. It's the same thing that John said to you, Algrid.
Yeah.
I could see maybe the Retaliator getting that type of treatment, having a bay that could take bombs, but
like a module. Yeah, I could see that.
MPCDN asks, what do you all think about holding back the Liberator? Or what do you all think is holding back the Liberator? Also, will the Liberator, or also will the Ironclad be the loner Liberator? I'll go with Tristigan in this one. What do you think is holding back the Liberator?
Oh, interesting. I think, first of all, I think the loner question, that would probably be the best fit we have at the moment. Sure. I'm working on the Ironclad currently. I'm building the interior and try to see what fits. And that came up a lot. But what is holding it back? I would just say they have enough ships of that size in production. I don't think there's any technique I can think of that would hold it back, except for maybe having ships on the exterior without like, mag plates or something.
Okay.
Other than that, it's mostly not on they don't have the manpower right now to do that too.
So someone was saying the missile exercise 3. I just looked at the on DPS tracker on Urkel. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 different size 4 mounts. It has size 3 missiles and size 2 missiles, but all of them are on size 4 mounts. So it can technically carry 8 size 3 bombs. So sorry. Al, your same question. What's holding back the Liberator? You're muted.
Sorry, I muted it because the dogs were barking.
Barking.
But I would say development time.
Okay. Development.
It's not needed at present.
That's my answer. It's like it's just not it's the same thing holding back the B, the whole B and the whole E and D, like because they just don't need to work on them. There's no reason to put the B when you already have the A. There's no reason to do the E and D because you already have the C. And there's no like call for larger cargo in either of those fields. There's execute.
Sorry, I was replying to a question. What was the
What's
original
holding back the
question?
Liberator? What's holding back the Liberator?
It's size and a need. Like, is there a need for it anymore? I think we can all say that the jump points changed from what they were originally planned to be. A lot of the starter ships now even have jump drives where previously they didn't have them before.
Mhm.
I think the whole need has changed. And again, the Ironclad Assault is really close to. Sorry, I almost just stabbed myself with on my finger. If that's why when I was jumping, I shouldn't be playing with a knife.
Still play with a knife.
I just fidget with it all the
Yeah.
time. Anyway,
Well, I've got the pencil.
yeah. It's just a mental exercise. It keeps me not doing crazy shit. The Ironclad Assault is clearly kind of like a spin-off of the Liberator. The Liberator doing ships and vehicles, and the Ironclad Assault just doing the vehicles. I also think that they may come back and do a variant of the Liberator as well that just does all ships. I think that makes a lot of sense. So you've got all 3 bases kind of covered there. It does not make sense to me anymore to do a ship of that size and not spin off some kind of variant. But they seem to be doing that a lot now. If you look at everything that's been coming out in the last 12 months, there's just variants. They've just realized it's just so easy. Why would I make a bespoke ship when I can duplicate it and make 2 or 3? We're seeing across the board. They're going back and doing them as onboard. But the whole thing that's happening with the Valkyrie and the Asgard and the Paladin, that's what you're seeing. You've seen it in multiple starter ships now. The Intrepid, the Pisces, the Cutter. It's just going on and on and on. Like there's no point not to do that because they do in the real world. It's actually a realistic thing to do. It saves money, it saves costs, but it's also realistic. It's just its size though, generally, and its purpose. What do you gain from putting that in the game? Not a lot. Not a lot. We've only got 2 systems right now. They've essentially said that we're only going to have 5 at release. Like the whole need for a transporter of that scale is just not there yet. It really kicks it down the road to like after 1.0 in my book personally. I hope that's enough excuses, but
Yeah, here's another point. If we do get the P, why do we need the Liberator anyway? Because it can carry a number of ships. So it's not needed and it's properly development time. So all of the above. So,
well, again, our grid taking what you just said there, if they really needed one and like the poor guy can't get his ship from one side to the other, they could have also just set up an AI Idris that's a ferry for people.
Yeah. Yep. Or whatever.
They got stopgaps now. Yeah.
But do you think that they will ever? Sorry if that goes off topic, but I really think that the role for this, the need for this, is gone now for good. Do you think they will ever scrap ships
No,
that they have
not
sold?
Sold. No. They'll
They're
just
not
they'll
that
just
they've
release them.
sold.
I don't
What
think
was
the
what was
roles-
John's comment to us?
Oh yeah,
If
Yeah.
it's not, if we haven't sold it, we're not
Mm.
obligated
We're
to
not
bring it. If
beholden
we've
to
sold
do
it, we're obligated to do it.
Well, that's why the whole
So-
Galaxy problem came out, because they had
Mm.
never actually sold that module, but they'd essentially promised people that the Galaxy would be a base builder, which is why he went. But we kind of said, "Oh, that's going to land like a shit in the fan."
Mhm.
And then we went home and went and streamed and talked about it, and then the next day it all blew up. So John's probably never going to talk to us ever again.
Yep.
But
But-
by the same token, to his credit, he fixed it in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
People are I don't think it. I do think it still has a purpose, but we just don't know what its purpose is going to be. Because like one of the things it would do is be able to carry large numbers of ground vehicles as well as ships. So
Mm.
I think what might happen is it might evolve into something different, but it's what it is going to remain the same. So it might evolve with like I've talked about the idea of a ferry ship, a Ro-Ro ferry, where it's a ship that just carries things from point A to point B. So it might evolve to being mostly useful for you NPCs as a what X was just talking about, like a ship that could carry something from point A to point B, but they sold it, so it's still got to do what it's got to do, even if it has no purpose in game. If people's original purpose doesn't work for it. So
I think the whole concept of the Liberator, because it's so multi-role, right?
Mhm.
Like how we used to call it a shipping ship,
Mhm.
right? That is literally what it is. It was literally designed to just go through the jump points and take the smaller ships through. But now you look at all the starter ships, there's very few ships now that don't have a jump drive, and most of them, to be honest with you, are fighters. That like the Cutter's got a jump drive. There was even the 100i did not have a jump drive. It now has a jump drive. They've gone back and put that in, right? So none of the starter ships don't have them. The only and I can't see why you would really drop them out of fighters. You might as well just put them in, and you could remove all those from those ships.
it's distance.
I don't know.
It's distance. It's like a
Yeah.
fighter or a starter ship can't right. Even now, a starter ship can't jump from
Yeah,
Phantom to Pyro and then travel to one place without having to get something to get gas. The only reason why
exactly.
they added a bunch of stations in Pyro was because they didn't have the system set up that they wanted to for like refueling
But also,
and support for that. So
to add to that, though, that gets back to my point. There's only 5 systems now.
Yeah.
So there's just no need for something of that caliber.
Yeah.
Not at the moment, anyway.
yeah, I think eventually there will be, but just not.
Yeah, I agree.
But I also think that expansion of Pyro didn't just solve that problem. It actually solved the problem of being wide and shallow. It's now wide and deep.
Yeah.
In terms of the points of interest.
more
and
places to
everything.
go
So,
too. So.
I'm biting my tongue. Sorry.
We've still got a lot of questions left, and I want to try to get through them because I know we tend to go long on them. All right. So, do you think CIG are doing the right thing with how they're developing variants? Modules are Mark IIs of ships, or do you think they could have done something better?
Look, for me personally, as long as the variants have a place to exist and they're an actual good ship, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's the other thing that became very clear when we talked to Ben and John too, Alfred, wasn't it? Was that it essentially goes niche ships or bespoke ships, then variants, and then modular. So the more you get to modular, the more jack of all trades they are, and variants are like somewhere in the middle. But again, we're getting less and less bespoke ships. Let's just put it that way. Because it's so much less work for them just to change the texture, add a couple of fins or whatever. It's just so much less work, and it's a really easy way for them to fill out the ship lineup.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, they don't feel too cheap. You look at them and they all do look different enough. But it's also got an advantage because when you look at a cutter, you basically know what a cutter does, how it functions, and what's going to pull off. So mentally, you kind of go, well, it's got this, but then it does this. So it's just easy to articulate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a reality. The reality of the future is this.
Yeah.
I've noticed this more and more often that CIG is basically right now focusing heavy on variance because it was clear. We knew this from a while ago that modularity was a gimmick at best. And that all that modularity did was allowed them to reduce, because originally they thought modularity would allow them to do variance without having to do variance. And then they found out it takes as much time to do a variant as it does to make modules for it. So just make variants. It's not that hard. And so I think they're still doing modularity because of just how different you can make the ships. And so it's probably the same sort of, it's all probably takes the same amount of time, but it's just easier now for them to build those out, to swap those out. That's a completely different discussion we've already had about modularity. But right now, it's clearly they're doing kit bashes. They're taking what they have, the asset libraries they have, and they're seeing what they can turn into. And that is them using the restrictions of time and money and resources to create what they have now rather than trying to come up with some crazy idea for the future. I think that's the future of how Star Citizen is going to work. Your ships are going to look like the ships that exist now, but slightly different, with some slightly different roles, with maybe a few new assets here and there. So we end up having 3 Valkyries, which have 3 different versions, 3 different values, but they're not going to look exactly like the same Valkyrie. Just makes sense.
Well, for example, it looks like it's got 6 wings.
Yeah.
The Asgard, because of the way it's been constructed, it looks so different to the other one. And then the engines are up really high. There's enough of a difference that the silhouette changes essentially.
Yeah, even though it is basically the same frame. So yeah.
Trist, your take on this? What is your take on them developing variants modules or Mark IIs of ships? Do you think they could do it better?
So with the variants, I'm very happy with most of them, most of the recent ones that really have different roles. Like, for example, the Starlancer, for me, that was a good idea. Lore-wise or universe-wise, I kind of miss the idea of modules actually changing a ship's role. Because right now, I said it earlier, every ship to me feels like a new, perfectly built ship. And I would have liked this feeling of this more Star Warsy feeling of I have this whitey transporter, but I have modded this here and this there. But at the end in Star Citizen, every ship is factory new. And I know it's not possible to have this kind of modularity, even with modules, but that would have been something to really have different ships that you can't distinguish on first look.
All right, so
I actually
Happy Boyington
I actually
asks,
want my new ships to look like
New ships?
but I want them to weather.
Yeah. Well, I think
That's one point, yeah.
What Tristan's saying is, or Tristan's saying is like, is that like certain ships should be different in terms of their look versus others, you know?
Yep.
They're all stock is the right word. Not factory new, they are all stock. Every ship is stock.
Yeah. The old stock, yeah.
Pappy Borington asks a question, which we saw that earlier. Pappy, if you're here, you're gonna have to clarify on this, and we'll get back to you. They ask, can it carry a cargo on the rack in the back exterior? If we have no idea what you're talking about.
I assume they're talking about the Asgard.
It could be talking about the Asgard. I don't. Is there
There's no rack on the Guardian. There's no rack on the NTC, and there's the TAC. Does the TAC have a rack?
No, I don't think so.
Grey Cat vehicle.
They're saying the MTC.
Vehicle Grey Cat. MTC.
I don't think there's a rack.
Oh.
There's no rack that I've seen.
Yeah.
Maybe that equipment.
Happy said ground vehicle.
Yeah.
It just said ground vehicle.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what rack. I haven't seen a rack in there. All I've seen is suit lockers and
that
components.
locker thing that extends out where the components.
Hands out.
What he was asking.
Yeah, that's components at the back. The rack at the back, yeah, that's for components. You can tell by the way it slides out of the thing. It's clearly for components. Yeah, that's the rack he's talking about on the interior, the exterior. Sorry, yeah, that's for components. I'm pretty sure.
All right, I'll start with you on this one, Twist. Twist, I keep doing that. Trist. Dell asks, lately CIG has been giving larger ship pilots more guns, and the Asgard is now coming with 6 pilot guns. It's always been a fine balancing act between solo pilots and encouraging multi-crew. How is CIG doing in that regard? Would you do it differently?
I feel that mostly there's a lot of back and forth with it, right? It's for every ship they say it's too much, and then it's too little, and then they change it. And I think it is a bit too early to decide on this. We don't really have this capital against capital warfare they always talked about. I don't think we are there yet, and so I wouldn't put too much weight into who can control the ship. I think it will all be changed once we have the space battles on that scale, and I'm fine with that.
Al?
Kind of the ant.
I tend to disagree, and it's the argument I've often made. I don't like on multi-cruise ships the pilot having the bulk of the guns. I want, I'd rather see on the Connie, instead of the pilot having those 4 size 5s, they be divided by the gunners and the pilot having smaller guns because he's already doing so much. You want to give your crew things to do on the ship. Now, there's going to be engineering. There's other things to do, but you want to develop that crew pilot unity. And one of the best ships that I've found does that is the Hurricane. The Hurricane is a great ship for being in a crew with someone because the gunner's got the bulk of the weapons, and so the pilot actually works with the gunner rather than saying, "Oh, just point your guns forward and fire what I'm firing at."
Is
It
that
really
sociological aspect, because the same thing was me and Agrid would go get in a Scorpius, and because then you had essentially the same gun weapons, you just wouldn't give as much of a shit about the turret gunner because it wasn't to your benefit to do so.
So that's always been my bugbear, but yeah.
Go ahead, X.
Yeah, I think once the MFDs come in, a lot of these will dissipate quite a lot. The Corsair thing about removing the guns all from the pilot made sense, but eventually when MFDs come in, you'll be able to do that. AI blades will allow you to do that as well. It's just, when I say AI blades, I mean that combined with the MFDs, so you can look them to yourself and stuff like that. But you get my point, right? It's a cart before the horse problem. This is in the future, this is something that we won't even really talk about because they'll kind of go back to how it should be. Plan to be, I should say.
Yeah, I what's this? Sorry, I'm going back to see which one's the question. Oh yeah, it's Dell's question about stuff. I think the big thing is CIG internally is working with engineering. They're working with engineering and Maelstrom, and it's like it's clear that the game that CIG is playing around with, like Squadron and maybe even internal builds of Star Citizen, is not the game we're playing in drastic ways. So these guns, they may be saying, "Oh yeah, cool. The pilot gets 6 guns," but the capacitors and the they've even said straight up, you will not be able to power everything on the ship fully with your engine, with your power plant. And no matter how much you scream and shout about it, CIG is likely to keep it like that because it's a gameplay balance issue. It doesn't matter if it doesn't meet your sense of reality. It meets the point of the game. And you know what else game does that? Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous does the same damn thing. So that's just the reality of how games like this need to be balanced, because you need to have some sacrifice something in order to make the gameplay interesting. And so I have no problem with it because I think CIG is looking at it from a perspective of the game that they're making rather than the game that we're in.
So many components missing there.
Yeah.
No armor, no emitters, no AI blades yet, no batteries is a big one that you mentioned, Paul.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things that we often forget is pilot-controlled turrets. I don't think we're going to be able to put AI blades in and turn them into remote. No. It's remote turrets. We can do that too. But not the manned turrets.
We'll see.
They are unique in that sense, and that's why the Gladiator doesn't have the same ability to pilot control the turret as, say, the Super Hornet does, because that's a remote turret.
Yeah.
In a sense. So, but yeah.
All right. I kicked through a little bit hard. harder here, so I'm trying to figure out where we
I
were.
did see a comment. Someone said, "What's the point of having 6 guns if you can't fire them?" And I think that's pulling back that power usage thing.
You
It's a matter
can
of
fire
making
them, you just
choices.
can't have shields.
Yeah, it's a matter of making choices. Do I want to be more shield heavy so I can take more hits? Do I want to be able to punch more and so you've got to balance your
Yeah.
do your balance by doing that time. So
Do I need to turn
player
off
choice
my
becomes
engines basically, so I'm just barely moving, but I can punch and hit, take all the hits? Yeah, it's a meaningful choices.
Yeah.
All right. There was one question that we skipped through. About the verse asks, what is your favorite Idris and why?
A dead one.
I love the K only because the K giant beam is stupid. I love it. I hate the K and I love it because it's just the best part about it is it's made by Hurston Dynamics. The beam weapon is made by Hurston Dynamics. And it's just
now, Paulie, I know you like Hurston,
well,
and that's why, obviously why.
Yeah, I love it because it's like, from a narrative perspective, so many guns clearly weren't made by Hurston; they were made by another company. And then the Mezzer regime fell, and the UEE was like, "We need someone to make these weapons," and Hurston Dynamics was like, "You need someone to make weapons, huh? Step into my shop, Let's build you some weapons."
Honestly, though, the best Idris is actually Idris Elba.
Yeah. Idris Elba, yeah. Which is the best movie. Yeah.
How do you pick? There's actually quite a lot there to pick from.
There's one answer, and it's Pacific Rim. But
yeah, that speech in Pacific Rim is pretty good. But I also thought he was pretty good in Thor as well.
Oh yeah.
In the stuff he did there, but yeah, he's done that. I'm forgetting the name now. It's the detective show that he did as well. That's really popular in the UK. So he's done quite a bit. Anyway,
Trist, your favorite Idris?
The Stanton, because it will be my home, I hope.
There we go. Al?
Idris M with the K-Pack laser beam attached instead of the mass driver.
All right. Steakru asks, do you think the suit lockers will have crayons? Of course they will. It's the standard Marine food rations. Of course they'll have them.
That'll take up a spot for your medical kit.
Yeah, your medical kit. Yeah.
I thought that was a typo.
You thought the crayons thing was a typo?
I couldn't figure out for what, but
it's a joke. There's a joke in America. There's a joke in Americans that the Marines don't have normal rations because they're brain dead. The only thing they know is to eat crayons because toddlers eat crayons. So it's a joke that's perpetuated by the U.S. Marines.
Yeah. Okay.
So Marines and UAE are there with their crayons trying to jab themselves so they're healing. Yeah.
Get their healing back. All right, next question comes from Escape, who asks, do you think the Perseus will be held back until IAE, or will it release when it's ready? I think it's releasing when it's done, and I just don't think it's done yet. But I also think the CIG has an idea of when it's going to be done, because they seem to have a better plan this year in terms of their ship release schedule. So.
Bigger ships tend to become at bigger sales to maximize the profit. It's, again, if they release one big ship here and then one at CitizenCon and then one at IAA, that seems to be pretty reasonable in my book. I don't think the other thing is, if you kind of looked at the Ironclad as a big ship, it's what, $450 versus an Idris that is almost 2,000. It's almost the same thing with the Perseus. The Perseus is so much below where the Idris is at. They don't really tread on each other because they're in completely different price point brackets. So I could realistically see them both come at the one sale as an example. They're in a whole new price bracket.
I still think that the easiest one is Perseus at CitizenCon and Ironclad at IAE, or some sort of combination of those two.
I'd probably swap that, but yeah.
Al?
And look, I'm seeing chat say John Cruise said IAE. Okay, fine. If John Cruise said IAE, that's what we're aiming at.
But you have
But I
to
think
source that,
it
please.
ties
chat.
in.
If this is coming back to that fucking Chinese
But-
bar citizen, we've already
No,
had that
he
conversation.
didn't say that.
No,
He actually, it's what it
But-
says there. It says Cruise said it at Cruise said it at AIE at China Live. That's literally what it says in chat. I can
Which
share it
is-
right there.
No, what he
Right,
said
so-
live was not at Invictus.
He
That's
said
the
not
only
in
thing he
Invictus.
said.
Yeah,
right.
yep.
But-
it's that same misinformation comes out. Go ahead.
So,
But
sorry,
that-
what did he say, Tris?
Not at Invictus.
Yes, he said it's not in Invictus. That's what he said.
Yeah. So he didn't say anything about AA.
Nope.
Maybe he said that
Okay.
afterwards, but not on the video.
Okay.
Right, but to me, that's irrelevant. But the key thing that matters is we know that there's an 18-month window of development time for ships to come out.
And it,
So it'll come out when it's ready, and they'll because they know each ship takes roughly 18 months of development time. They will work the development time to working with their big sales. That's tend to be where I sit. So if it's not coming in Invictus, like this one, and it's been in development, then I'd expect it either Citizen Con or IAE or when they want it to come.
To me, it sounded in the last report that it's still quite far away, so I wouldn't even be surprised if it wouldn't make it this. And IAE or Citizen Con, or maybe just the exterior they had for the Polaris back then. But wouldn't that be a good fit for next Invictus? Because as far as we know, there are no big Invictus ships they could have before Squadron. Now that the Idris is out, if it's
Paladin.
out, right?
I see that it's the Paladin.
Hmm.
But
I
the
don't
Paladin's
think
Paladin,
we've
so much
seen the
smaller.
Paladin. I don't think we've seen the Paladin until Invictus next year.
that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
that's what he's saying, but that's two completely different size and price points.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying, do they have anything big for next
the
year?
Javelin.
Okay.
Technically, yes.
The Javelin should be finished by
Technically is-
then because
Yeah,
it's
technically.
because
Star Jump Grim says, I asked John Crew when the Perseus was releasing. He said, "What's a Perseus?"
there you go. Confirmed for ILW. Yeah.
John Crew is a very big troll.
Yes.
I had an inkling of that, but until you sat down with him, you realize how jovial he is. That they love their banter. That was the thing that I and Toilet Humor. Holy crap!
Oh, yeah.
Like shit that me and Argid found completely crass, and they loved it. They ate it up. They were just like, "Give me that shit," and I'm like, "No, that's disgusting." And they love
all of the poo references.
Oh my God.
Toilet humor is great.
Oh.
It's wonderful.
You know, when we were doing the John Crew T-shirt, one of the ones was, John Crew's toilet above everyone else, and I work, part of John's crew.
Yeah.
We go, you can't do that. That's insulting.
Yeah. And
Ben-
Elliot
Ben's like,
said,
"Oh, yeah."
yeah, but I was talking to Elliot, and he said John Crew would absolutely love that. So I got the photo. I went down to a photography place, and I actually got it printed out on proper photography paper. Got the size wrong, so I had a spare, and then got the proper one, put it in a frame, and gave him that and the spare. So he now has that hanging on his wall in his office. This toilet above the other toilet, and do you know what he did with the spare? He goes, "Here, Ben, you can have this." Just to
And,
remind you.
Ben's
how
got it in
I
his
you.
office. And Ben's like, this is great.
And he's like,
I loved it.
Thanks. Thanks for that, John.
That reminds me.
Thanks for reminding me you shit on me every day. Great, thanks.
That also reminds me is that for those of you who don't know, I'll say this a couple times, but I just started a ship review series with the most recent.
It's good.
Out. And I'm planning on April 1st next year to release one that's going to be like an expose on the Redeemer. But I'm going to go extra deep. I'm going to go try to track down the people who created it in first place, the Horseman. And then I'm going to try to get an interview with Ben because he's the one who turned it into the ship for the game. And anybody who worked on that. So it reminds me I have to reach out to Tyler about that.
Which Ben?
Ben.
No, is it Lesnick or Curtis?
Lesnick.
Which one?
Curtis.
Yeah, Curtis. Right,
Yeah.
Curtis.
So I have to like, I know how this works with CIG. If you want to try to get anything from anybody, you either got to be big name or you got to like ask a year in advance to try to get people. And they also have to be available and all that stuff. So, because this would be like a sit down talk for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to discuss like the design process and where that came from and such. So, anyways, moving on. Dell asks, why would the Guardian MX been more interesting if it was a torpedo boat? We don't have many fighter type ships with torpedoes. And that was X's theory. So,
it was just because there was lots of torpedoes coming in.
Yeah.
It seemed to kind of make sense at the time. It's not something that they can't do later on as well. I'd expect to eventually see a smaller ship, so to speak, that can have those size 10 torpedoes, but obviously just a lot less of them. Well, think about it realistically. Look at the Polaris; it's got 28 of them.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you want to have a ship like, say, I don't know, let's look at the Eclipse. It has 3 size 5s. Why wouldn't you want a ship that
It
has
says 10s.
3 size 10s?
No,
Yeah,
It says 10s.
they're size 10s, are they?
the Eclipse
Yeah.
has
I thought that-
the size 10s. They're bigger than a
It's the
Retaliator.
it's the Harbinger and the Gladiator that have size 5s
I'm remembering this wrong.
or size 9s. They're
Yep.
saying size 9s. The same torpedoes as the Retaliator, the size 9s.
Yep. And the Harbinger and the Gladiator have the same. I would love to see the Galaxy, the Guardian with
No, they're
torpedoes.
they're size 9s, not size 10s.
Yeah, they're size 9s.
So yeah, okay, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So someone says size 5 torpedoes punch down on it, but my thought was what we really need to do is the Aurora variant, which is just a size 10 torpedo strapped to the top of an Aurora, and it's just a one shot.
That's your man torpedo. That's your divine wind launched from a javelin.
When did that mock up with the torpedoes in the MX? Like he used the old Guardian model and put the size 9s or size 10 or whatever. I think it was the size 9s he did. And he tried how that would look, and it looked a bit silly, to be honest.
Mhm.
It looked a bit overgunned for the size. Even though the question was would it be more interesting? Maybe, but I don't think it would really fit on that chassis.
I
Let's
could
move-
see it fitting on the chassis. I think it'd be okay, but yeah. And the MX, as it is, it's got bespoke missile launcher. It's got 24 size 4 size 2 missiles. That's all it's going to be able to take. So
Moving on to Citizen Dance, who asks, JC mentioned mobile bases. What would you all like to see for a mobile base look like? Mortal Engines, Zoid carrier? So on the video from the Bar Citizen China, the one of the questions was, are we going to do a mobile base like the size of like a Freelancer or like a Cutlass? So like it's a ground vehicle that's that size. And John said, basically, how would we deploy that? How would we get that out of a hangar, and get that out? So it's like it'd be a nice idea, but there would be a lot of logistical issues we'd have to figure out in order to get that to work.
And again, in a spaceship game, it doesn't make a lot of sense personally.
Yeah.
You want a mobile base that's already it's the Kraken.
Or you have the Pioneer. That's
Yeah.
literally what it is.
Yeah,
It's a-
I was gonna say the
or you
Pioneer.
build one, or
Yeah.
the build. If
Yeah.
you want,
Yeah.
what did you say? Starlancer side? That's the build then.
Yeah. Or Freelancer size, Freelancer and
There's
yeah.
definitely going to be more building ships coming.
Yeah.
Definitely more.
Were you
But
gonna
that
say,
was
Chris?
specifically about ground bases, right?
Yeah,
Not about.
like a
We're talking about
ground
ship.
like a ground vehicle that is also a base.
Yeah.
Like a Sand
The only
or
thing
something
where
like that.
Oh, sorry. The only thing where I see that makes sense is everything ground extracting, because it would seem kind of boring if you put down your mines or extractors or whatever once and then they work forever. So if you have to move them around every now and then to get new ores and new veins, that could be some gameplay use in there.
And it's also important to remember that there's a difference between the kind of equipment and components needed for a ship and a combined of equipment and components needed for a ground vehicle. So like you wouldn't need a quantum drive on a ground vehicle. So you could take that out, and that's a huge size that takes up a lot of space inside of a medium ship. So they could probably do something that was not the same size as a medium vehicle, but the same internal space as it, because of what it works. But My answer is if we're getting to that point where we're just like, we're going to have a mobile base that's the size of a medium ship. It's just like, and we can't have mechs in the game. That's just a medium-sized ship on legs. Let's just do that. So that's my own.
Let's just have a
bugaboo.
sandcrawler or a.
Yeah. But how would you
Yeah,
transport them? You just build a bigger ship. It's designed to transport them. That's it. But
build them on the planet.
all right. Next
Okay.
question comes from Escape, who asks, do you think CIG is aware that the idiots that made the recoil for ships made it backwards? I don't know. But yeah, apparently the energy weapons recoil goes backwards. So it shoots you forward rather than backwards when it fires. So I don't know.
That's pretty easy to fix. It's just a
Someone
orientation.
inverted a
Yeah.
variable somewhere.
I would have thought that
mistakes were
energy
made.
weapons don't need a recoil, but
It
Yeah, true.
depends. Like that is a deep philosophical question in all science fiction games: is do energy weapons need recoil? And then there's cases in like 40K where games literally have shown no recoil for the laser weapons, and then they show others that show active ones. Like I think there's recoil in Dark Tide, like las weapons, but there may not be as much in other ones. But
Tends to be more in Dark Tide. It's a lot more overheating actually.
yeah,
Not so much recoil, just like there's this downtime of overheating.
there's still some recoil as you fire. So yeah.
When
Right.
it becomes unstable as you charge,
Yeah.
technically speaking. But yeah, I get you.
Shimpasa asks, do you feel the ship leaks are done on purpose by CIG? What ship leaks? Or all of the like the stuff that's
He's
in
just
Invictus?
talking about leaks. He's just talking about leaks in general.
No. I mean, yes and no. CIG knows that we mine the files. So they're gonna put stuff in there that are designed as red herrings, and also they can't protect some stuff. So
and
Said I haven't seen a red herring in a while, to be honest with you.
the walkthrough videos. Oh, no, those walkthrough videos aren't intended by CIG. They just happened. What do you think, Trist? Do you think CIG is intentionally leaking those walkthrough videos?
I think about that a lot. I don't think they do. I still think they. I'm surprised why they don't put more effort into having at least these IAE ships or Invictus ships held back a few days more, because, as you say, they know we're going to mine them. But I'm pretty sure at the same time they are feeding a lot of that information. But this one, I don't get it. Why do you already have all the models?
Look, I worked with SC leaks for a time. No, they don't feed them to them. There are tools that were built by people that work through the leaks community that CIG now actually use internally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because they did so good with the tools that they actually hired some of them and brought them in to work on those tools.
That's how JRDF gets its models.
Yep. VMXMO now works there. He used to work with Starjump, and he still does work with Starjump. But you get my whole point, right? He's one of them. And there's a bunch of other people. There's people that don't want to work there because they make too much money elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
it's just how it
I'm not
is.
saying they feed everything. That, of course, not. But
no, they don't feed.
They don't feed anything. They don't feed. It's just there are people that are smart enough that they know they're going to get into it anyway. They just
don't bother.
Think about all the extra work that you'd have to do to stop it. It's just not worth their time. It's going to come out anyway. Someone's going to talk anyway. Let's just get it out there. They just want to release it anyway. It's done.
Yeah, and there are some things that CIG have brought out that haven't been leaked because it was just kept under wraps so well. So
yeah,
and there've been ships that have come to flyable, but we're in that situation. So it's just when they put it in the files, it gets mined and then gets they're able to get in and do that. So and do the walkthroughs. But there are some ships that CIG don't put into the files because they're actually really keeping it under lock and key. So it's not them feeding it, but
like I said, I have talked with people at SC Leaks about the story of Squadron 42. We all because I know the entire story, and I've actually talked with several people there who know the story and the twists, and we confirmed we both know that we all know the twists and the story plot lines and the beats. So it's
I can remember when the story got leaked.
Yeah,
and I avoided reading it because of the same Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
but
like
yeah.
it's been out there a long time, and so it's like the reason why you don't hear about it is because SE leaks and people like myself also know that people would like the community would roast us live for spoiling aspects of Squadron that because they've been waiting for 12 years for it. So it's like, yeah.
But look, believe it or not, no matter what you think of the people at leaks, they do have a code of conduct.
Yeah.
And Squadron 42 is very much off the menu.
Yeah, and also CIG would probably be very litigious with any of those kind of things. So because they have not been shown to not be litigious. So yeah. So I don't want to ruin anybody's experience. I don't want to get a pipe bomb in my mail, and I don't want to get a lawsuit slapped onto me by Chris Roberts. Those are three things I want to avoid. So keep away from that.
I'm sure Toast would be very nice when he gave it to you, or we should, but you know.
Iggy Chrono asks, if you would like your input, please, if I buy the Kraken, and if the Idris goes ready to fly, do you think the Matrix would be updated to have the Idris as the loaner for the Kraken? Almost certainly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, almost certainly. That's
Next question.
Size.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Monster Avi asks, with the Kraken going into pre-production end of year, do you think they will have any notable changes to support / deflect the current quote unquote gameplay stuff, like the Dragon Bay becoming a snub bay or something else? No.
Didn't they? I haven't watched the video, but they actually mentioned about it possibly being reconcepted. So that tells me that they do need to make changes if they're going to reconcept it.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be reconcepted dramatically, though. It'll probably stay at the same lines.
No, but like, so there were things that John has said over the years, like it's got so much extra space in that Kraken, they could put like a medical bay in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. But honestly, like back when they did that thing, the Dragonfly was one of the only bikes. Now there's a whole bunch of bikes and a whole new vehicles. The scope of the game has changed quite a bit. Like, to give you a real simple example, like, say we land the new Asgard on the Kraken, right? Because it's the only ship that has medium pads, so you know that you can land an Asgard on it. How do I get a tank from the cargo bay area of the Kraken up to the Asgard that's on the upper deck? There's no lift. So that's a really good example of something, and they have lifts on aircraft carriers, right? So like it's little things like that where you know, time has essentially told them, oh, here's some small little fixes that we can have. That's what they mean by reconcept. I do agree with you, Paul. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a large reconcept, but I wouldn't say it's small either. I would say it's like a retweaking, like somewhere in the middle. But like there's just little things like there that I'd like to see, like a medical bay, a lift, and you could even have the lift as one of the, you know, those 4 small pads. One of those could actually be a lift that goes up and down, so it's a pad and a lift. Yeah. And it just goes down to the 2 hangars, and you just drive it, you know, somewhere you can drive all the way through the ship, straight through up to the hangars and out or whatever. There's so many things they can do there with that ship. It's got a lot of potential. When we were there talking to them, you could see the passion, couldn't you, Albert? I'll let you speak on this because they were both big fans.
Yeah.
And I think it's not yet decided how much reconcepting that needs, because the ships they need to learn from are not out yet. The Idris will be something they can learn from, being the first carrier ship of that size, somewhat in that range. And that needs to be out and actually used before they see what kind of issues that brings. And same goes with the, they said that the Ironclad will make it possible. And to me, that doesn't just mean that they finish it and then they have the assets and they start, but also seeing what goes wrong, what we break with that thing. And then learn from that, and that doesn't mean they can instantly start and
that's a perfect analogy of what it is, because they worked on other games. They didn't know how to make spaceships. They've had to learn all this shit all the way along, even in the real world. Let's look at who's doing it right now. SpaceX. They're building rockets. They're sending them up and just watching them fail and learning from that, and then doing it again, and then again and again and again. And they're not getting much better at the moment, but they are getting slowly better. So you would hope it's the same thing, because like look at all the ships that are out there at the moment. Like look at the Reclaimer. That's got so much wrong with it right now. But they had to build a reclaimer to know how to build a reclaimer. But they also took that and put it into other ships. So they'll come back to the reclaimer, they'll add the capital size docks and, you know, all the, you know, the drones and all the things that it needs. And obviously they're gonna have to rework the elevator at the front because it's too goddamn tiny and stuff like that. But they've learned, now you go into the next ship along. I don't know, just gonna pick one randomly, the Hull C. You know, it's got a much bigger elevator for 4 crew instead of for 1 little person. And they will then take those benefits they learn and roll into the next one. So every time they're learning, they were not rocket scientists, they were game developers. In fact, John Crew, he worked at Crytek, and I believe he also worked on, I could be wrong, but someone told me he worked on the Lego games. So again, I'd have to go back and check, but John Crew would be able to tell you his history, and they didn't work on that stuff, so they had to learn how to do that. So if you look at his history, he wasn't a ship guy, he was a Crytek guy,
FPS guy.
So,
Yeah, he actually worked
yeah.
on the original Crisis. I think I know he worked on Crisis 2. I think he started on the original Crisis because I remember they removed him from the freaking credits of the remaster. So when they redid the remastered the Crisis 1, they removed all of the original developers' credits, and he went ballistic on social media about it. Like, I put my fucking years of my life into this thing. You bastards put my name on there. You know, just because you retouched it up or whatever. So,
taking credit for someone else's
whatever you
work.
worked on, there is no game that has something like the Kraken, right?
Yeah.
There's no game that has a large interior ships that you can fly around. They're essentially flying levels. There's nothing really like this. The best you'd get would probably be in one. I'd have to think of one.
One-off
is where
games, like Carrier Command.
one ship and there's only one ship. Yeah,
it's like Carrier Command and like, you know, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, but you can't like actually pilot the ship or anything like that. So yeah, it's like the hero level ships, you know, the Normandy, but it'll actually fly the Normandy. It just levels, you know.
And they've got to work like from the inside out and the exterior and all that type of stuff. Like look at Dark Tide as an example. You've got that entire area that you go out to that's the interior of that massive ship, but you never see the exterior.
Yeah.
It's really not in space, but these are literally flying and moving around. They've got to like the level of detail that the concept artists go through is insane. I'm going to butcher the guy's name, but I think it's Ryan Cathegory or something like that.
Oh, Ryan Church.
Starjump.
Ryan Church.
No, not Church. Goddamn, Starjump talks about him all. Grim talks about him all the time.
He's in chat. He can tell us.
He'll drop his name, but basically, he when he interviewed and talked to him, he just messaged me. Hang on, what did he say? No, he just left the house, so he can't reply.
Oh,
just left the house. But yeah, not Paul Jones. The other one, the concept artist, Grim, the guy,
Gavin Ross.
Gavin Rothery. Gavin Rothery.
That's another big name in the industry.
Yeah. So he talked about him and basically like how he was saying that like these are the most detailed spaceships he's ever had to work on because they actively kind of actually have to actually work.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone mentioned X4, but as somebody who's played X4, those ships are basic in comparison to Star Citizen stuff. Like they are very basic. They're good, but they're like there's a couple of rooms is what we're looking at versus like a full-blown capital class, which is like multiple rooms and levels and airlocks and all that kind of shit. Like shitting on the developers at Egosoft makes it, but it's you know, it's not the level of Star Citizen.
Just to your point, then you can see why ED didn't want to do the ships because it's so much extra work, and their whole thinking, like on paper, right? On paper, the effort to the gameplay does not translate. But anyone that's played Star Citizen will tell you it makes this insane difference. Like it's so visceral. You are just so much like I know they use the all the cliche words like immersion and all that type of stuff, but it is. It just is. Yep. Like there's just no question. It literally sells the entire concept. So yeah.
Yeah, to go back to the question, I could see the Kraken getting some rework. To pick up the things you guys said, a couple of comments from chat. Someone's saying it needs to have a repair bay. It has a repair bay.
Yeah, it does. It's got 2 of them.
It's the internal hangar is also a repair bay. You can actually set up cranes in even the concept work.
It won't be cranes,
Like-
Algrid. It's all beam citizen now. It'll all be tractor beams.
Yes.
But I'd also love to see that Dragonfly Bay be able to take snubs. I always had the dream of using P52s or P72s instead of Dragonflies because I don't like Dragonflies. But Grim also had an idea, which I really liked as well, was remove that bay to underneath for the Dragonflies or snubs and turn that bay into a cutter bay. So it's basically the cutters working like an MPUV in that sense. And I thought, no, yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
All right.
It's not a bad one.
But
I'm
I'd
gonna
like
move
to
on.
see those types of changes, but they won't be massive, I don't think. They'll be the type that we talked about.
We're going to move on because we've been talking about this for a long time. But the answer is, the problem is that there were like 3 people who asked the same question about, because John Crew mentioned the Kraken, like what changes are going to happen. Like a couple of those questions. We kind of covered all of them with that, which is nice.
It's an entire episode on its own, that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shimpasta asks, should CIG just start releasing shipped? Should CIG just start releasing ship in the name of testing, even if the gameplay doesn't exist?
No.
If the
I get
gameplay,
the
Test the ship
Reclaimer.
if the gameplay for it doesn't exist.
that's how you get the
You get the-
Reclaimer or the Starfarer, and they're both examples.
Yep.
Even John Crew in the interview was like, the Reclaimer is a pain in the ass. We need to redo the interior because it's badly done, and not like completely, but it needs to get relooked at in terms of flow.
I hope so when they do.
They have learned from their mistakes, but you've got to make those mistakes so you can learn. That's how humans learn.
Yeah.
Like I always talk about Edison, 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
This is famous for quote. Yeah. But the other answer is one of those lessons they learned was stop making interiors for ships that don't have gameplay yet, because it's going to blow up in their face.
And what was it? What was the key? Like, if you look at the Reclaimer, what was the key thing they were doing when they built the Reclaimer? They were building a Nostromo.
Yeah.
They were getting that alien vibe. So I hope when they do it, it keeps its aliens vibe, but it needs a rework. There's so much wrong with it. But,
Okay, so Jin and Tonic ask a question. I think this is more directed at X. Quote, they've broken all of these promises, unquote. Don't you think it's possible that they realize that they've been sitting on all of those ships so long that they realizing that Squadron 40 was taking a lot longer than they thought, that said, give them ships. Give them the ships. It doesn't make any sense to sit on them any longer.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that?
We kind of did. I think that whoever wrote that question wrote it as we were talking about before. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It's kind of how it is. Like they
why we get
they also needed
basically.
Well, they also had a real dip in ship people, right?
Yeah.
At that time, and they were like, "Shit, we need shit to sell because we just don't have anything to sell right now." So they dipped into stuff they had sitting there.
Mhm.
That's why you saw the F7A and the F8 and shit like that, because they were just short on ships.
And there are people who've built the Idris, and like never. A lot of people think that like CIG is some sort of Machiavellian scheme with like wheels upon wheels and plans within plans, and like CIG is working. Most of the people who work on these ships want to see cool shit be made, and so the people who'd be pushing for the release of the Idris, if it was ready, were the people who made the damn Idris. They would be like, "Let's release it." Why? Because I want to show it off because it's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah. Because I
think the
spent
other thing
6
is-
years of my life on this thing. Can I please show it off? You know?
I think the other thing is like we'll say it as it was a promise, but they never use the word promise.
No, they never do.
Right, so you got to remember it's a statement, and also there's many people that like I think back to the 600i.
Yeah.
Well, no, sorry, the Phoenix, and I don't want to get Algrid started on his rant about the Phoenix, but there were so many things promised for that thing. There was no way they could deliver them all.
No, we couldn't.
It just wasn't possible. And that's a really good example of how things were said over the years, just off the cuff, and it got added to it and added to it and added to it, and it was never going to be able to do all that. And that's why when people look back at that ship and said, "Oh, it was meant to do this, but it can't do that because it just doesn't have the space." Things do get blown out, and you've got to trim the fat.
Well, you look at the Connies, and the Connies were originally space superiority fighters.
Yeah.
That's how they were listed.
I mean, remember the caterpillar was supposed to be the evil twin of the freelancer.
Yeah.
And it's what
I
3
could
times
never
the size?
understand how.
Yeah.
I never understood how it could be the evil twin when it was so much bigger.
Yeah.
I always thought
Mm.
evil twin of a Connie,
Yeah.
not a freelancer.
For the context, Admiral Kusanagi was asking
Yeah.
about what was the what promise. So the idea that people were saying like the F7A, the F8, and the Idris were promised to come in after Squadron 42 released.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever been. I don't think they were ever framed in the
100
concept
systems at launch.
of promise.
that
I think
type of thing.
it was definitely more framed in the context of like we will release them after this, rather than like
Yeah.
We
We
promised to
would
do
like
this.
to.
we
Yeah,
would like
yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
All right. The next question comes from. Oh God. I'm gonna leave that for last because this is gonna be a long one. Sam V is asking about the Meteor, and I'll let you go on your AI fueled conspiracy rant.
You don't like AI, but
I
I'm
hate
sorry,
it.
but the AI is going. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. But again, I think the AI. I've been doing little things here and there, and it does. It just helps with the speculation
I
process.
get it. I understand its
Yeah.
purpose, and I don't hate it in the sense of that it's a useful tool, but I hate it that everyone uses it as a replacement for things that they should be doing their own brain work for.
Look,
yeah.
Paul, you are never
That's the
around to
teacher,
talk to. It's your own bloody fault that
It is
I'm
my
going to
own
go to
fault.
the AI and replace you.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's replacing me with AI.
It's for teacher and you coming up, Paul.
Yes. Well, because
They're taking the job, Paul.
I love whenever I hear that, I laugh. It's like, and I'm sure Al
Yeah.
can agree with that. That like
Yeah.
when the AI
Yeah.
can deal with classroom management, they could take my job.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Like, I can just see them chucking toilet rolls at the teacher. Sit down now, or
Yeah.
I'll taser you. And then, you can't taser me. Yeah.
A bit
So-
like Robocop.
Oddball. We'll get to that point though. It's a good point. It's just asking like what the Meteor might be. The Oddball asks, what do you think is stopping CIG from producing the G12? One, the same thing that's stopping them from producing the Liberator. It's not about. It's not important.
You get nothing for it.
They get nothing.
I think I've been asked that question like but once a month we get asked that.
Oh yeah.
I
Where's the
personally-
G12? Where's the G12?
I personally would love to have the G12 come out just so people would stop asking about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
It's one of the few ships that's like in vehicles that's just like there's no excuse other than CIG's lazy. It's just not a priority.
Maybe I should just change my answer to "they hate you" and just leave it.
Yeah.
Just like seriously go, "they hate you," and then just
Yeah,
Oh,
because like the Ranger makes sense because no human being should ever be forced to make motorcycles work in video games because motorcycle physics in video games is wonky as shit. And every time I've talked to anybody who's done vehicle design in games about motorcycles, the facial expression goes from like, oh yeah, I'm having a normal conversation to why do you bring up Satan in this conversation? Why are why are you
So
summoning
it's like
the devil
when
to this conversation right now?
It's like raising with John about the Endeavor.
The Endeavor, yeah. It's like
and
it's
that's-
one of those things that people hate about. So it's like there are definitely ships and vehicles out there that CIG is like the technology. We need to develop those technologies and make them work. Like if they're gonna put in a Ranger, they're gonna have to put in like an Aegis bike, bikes from every other manufacturer to make it so that it makes sense to do all this work. But until then, it's not going to.
What was the thing that you mentioned that every time someone mentions it, it takes longer? What was that?
The joke. Yeah, John's referencing it too. It was the Beta Merchantman.
Yeah. Every time they mention it, it takes longer. So it's the same thing with that. Every time you mention the J12, they just delay it by a month.
That or the X1. It was a Beta Merchantman. Yeah, every time you mention the Beta Merchantman, it gets delayed by a month. So
I tend to think that the G12 won't even get looked at until they get back to doing the 600i.
Or even the ground
600i.
The ground rework. Because like they still
because
I was gonna say like I have there's going to be an episode here shortly with it's going to have Darionator and Space Tomato and HC Vertigo. We're going to sit there and talk about how Star Citizen's wonky ground physics sucks, and it should be for several devs in this development company worked for famous racing developers, like making racing games. It's like you should know better. You should know that this needs to be fixed. But
yeah. But the G12's not, as you guys said, it's not needed. It's
Well, it's even needed even less now that the MTC is a thing.
yep, MTV,
Is it-
MTC, MTV series.
Well,
is out,
well,
yeah,
Well, because I'd say the MTC is halfway between the G12 and the Ursa because it's faster than the Ursa, and it's enclosed. But like you can get that now, and the suit lockers off the MTC, but it's probably not going to be as fast as the G12. All the G12 offers is speed, and you can get that in the Cyclone, but you don't have the enclosed cab. So,
Goes back to my question from earlier. I wish they would just abandon some content and accept that it has changed and give the people their money back. I know it would be weird. I know it's not going to happen, but for this ship,
or give them credit. Or even say to them, is there one ship that we don't sell every day of the week that you want in compensation, and give them that and credits? And when I say that, of equal or lesser value, do them a favor for the refund, and I'd have no problem with that. And then get rid of some really stupid ships that don't need to exist, like the Cutlass Steel, like the Hoplite, like the Rock DS. Like I could sit here and roll off half a dozen more.
but the ships that they haven't built yet, because the sale page says it's subject to change the
Make
whole
it better.
dynamics of what it is.
They've
and
actually-
make it better.
They've actually removed a lot of those verbiages on the new stuff that went out this week. There's no subject to change bullshit. It's all gone. They removed it all.
Well, we'll move on because we've got a handful of questions left, and a lot of them are similar. So, like Shimpasta and Sonavi 20 asks, basically, do you think CIG is going to sell the ATLS IKIT? And is it actually going to be a thing? For those who don't know, the
Atlas weapon.
It's the Atlas weapon is what it translates as, and everyone is thinking it's going to be the gunned up Atlas that's in display in the.
I think the fact that it's a Banu word tells me that it's Wicklow exclusive.
Yeah,
which is like. Because it looked like a hot mess.
Oh, it looks like a hot mess, but I'm going to use it every day.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, that's because you're a secret Australian.
Because I
Not
love
really.
I love to
You
strap
can't-
tin pans to myself and pretend that I'm what's his name?
Ned Kelly.
Ned
Kelly.
Yeah.
It's a bucket on his head because, like, once you see it, it's got like a bucket slip
Yeah.
from Ned Kelly. It's clear. Well, they don't know they've done it, but like as an Australian, that was the first thing me and Aaron
It's
saw. Like, oh, Ned Kelly.
as a fan of
Yeah.
Command and Conquer, it's the mechs from Command and Conquer. It's the scout mech from the Command and Conquer, which looks exactly. It looks like a walking fridge with a nail slut and like little weird arms. This is what it looks like. So,
And well, we're hoping it picks up the nickname Ned or something like
Yeah.
that. In the Ned or Kelly. Or
it's
something.
going to end up calling the Kelly. It's going to end up being called the instead of the Atlas Ikiti, it's the Atlas the Atlas Kelly.
Well,
that's
that's what
close. It's got a.
Wicklow called it. We call it the
Yeah.
Kelly. Yeah, but
Um,
I think if it's a Banu adjustment, it doesn't ruin the law of Atlas. So, So
yeah, and if it's unlockable, it's a nice little fun thing to get because it's not going to be like a balancing breaking thing. So,
Yep.
The
Atlas IKEA. I like that.
Part of the universe that feels real is literally seeing ships and wondering who in God's name is thought this was a good idea. That's my argument for the Atlas, the Atlas combat variant is like, who thought this was a good idea? Banu, and I love him for it.
Yeah, the Banu went, oh yeah, let's just they thought the Atlas platform was the best platform, so they took it, and then they thought, hey, we'll put some stuff on it. I can see them doing that.
It's done a lot in real life too. People make products that are just totally ridiculous and they don't sell. So
Radar Echo asks, are we going to have ground exploration / gameplay vehicles? Trist, what do you think?
Ooh. Isn't that an Ursa? What kind of exploration is
Cyclone RN?
Yeah, Cyclone RN has the little
radar.
It has like a built-in device where you can drop survey probes.
Remember, exploration has different types of gameplay too. There's finding lots of different things. So searching for people, searching for minerals, searching for data.
Oh yeah, and also has the
information.
updated radar scanner. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. So
Yep.
yeah, there's exploration is not exactly a small thing. It's a very broad gameplay term, and when you actually kind of sit down and talk it out, that episode we did argued with morphologist that led into science. It was Paul. If you, I think I did link it to you,
Yeah,
Paul.
I'll watch it.
But it totally changed how I thought of the game. Like I don't have a lot of epiphany episodes anymore, but that was one. It was like the first one I've had in like 2 years.
I hate to say it, but like everything you all say, I'm like, yeah, I've been talking about that forever. Like one of the things I've been saying for the longest time is that people have this idea that the exploration means Star Trek, where you get to go
exactly
explore new worlds and make love to alien women. And it's like, no, that's not exploration in Star Citizen. You're a map maker. Welcome to the USGS. Your job is to go to an area and update maps. And part of that is going to be science.
Odyssey versus Carrick is essentially what you're explaining.
Yeah. You're not going to be exploring new locations. You're going to be updating locations or going into dangerous areas where people can't go to see what's going on there. And you might find something cool, and that's going to help you out with your research or with somebody else. It's all just that. Yeah. It's going to be those moments in game where you're going to end up on a mountaintop dropping a survey beacon, and the light is going to hit just the right way and cascade through the clouds over this forest that you're exploring, and you're going to go, God damn, this is a beautiful game, and then move on. Kind of thing.
What's the Explorers Guild? The ISC.
Yeah.
The Interstellar Cartography Group.
Yeah.
We're mapping. We're going and finding where the points of interest are. We're looking at what happens if I, can I crossbreed animals and get the resources that I need? What animals are around? What resources can we get? That's going to be the whole kit and caboodle of it. I think it's just deep and massive, which means yes, we will get vehicles that will help with exploration.
And to go back to the original question, when the MTC had their first lines of code leaked, it only said something like mobile base. We speculated that could have a lot of scanning to be like a tactical base and then do some scanning. So maybe that.
No, you're right. We did talk about that, didn't we? Yeah.
And yes, Shenpasta husbandry. Old man Hurston does want to see Hurston itself become the breadbasket for Stanton.
Yes.
And beyond.
All right. I'll start with you on this one, X. Any word on beam weapons that was mentioned in the Chinese Bar Citizen?
It sounds really logical, doesn't it? We've always joked about it being beam citizen. You've got the singed tachyons off the Defender.
Mm-hmm.
You've obviously got the Hurston laser beam thing, whatever it's called, off the K kit. It's logical. There's a couple in there now. Why wouldn't you add more? You got the Titan suits, coming at some point that you could see beam weapons on them. They're a lot more up close and personal. You then copy that over into first person as well. You can see that happening. It makes a lot of sense to me to have different types of weapons. And one of the things obviously that works really well, and I know Paul and our grid, and I don't know about you, Tris, but you can all talk about this, is beams work really well from a visual perspective. High damage, high reward, much like a rail gun. Think about back to Quake 3. If you could get that headshot, it'd pay off a lot, but everyone knew where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a certain plus and minus to beam weapons.
It also looks really cool.
Yeah, they're having that big sweeping beam going across, and it's chasing you.
Don't cross the beams.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention, imagine if I ever did bombardment in this game, it would be a laser beam.
Yeah.
Think about the one they had that they had. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, imagine it's cutting across the terrain, and you're like, going, oh shit, you're in your vehicle, going, oh shit, they're trying to get me, or you're in your Titan suit running, and you look behind you, and it's got the full what's the destruction thing called? Starts with M. Maelstrom destruction, and you're looking back, and the buildings are blowing up, and the Jeep that you were just on's got swallowed, and Agrid's on it, and you laugh because he's dead, and you just keep going. You can see it all like
cruelly. It's how mean he is to me all the time.
You were mean to me earlier. Shut the fuck up. You can give it, but you can't take it. Anyway, but you get my point, right? Like, starting to integrate all these systems together, you can start to see how it all pan out. And
Yep.
like, beam weapons is just a sci-fi staple in my book. It'd be
Yeah,
silly to
Shadowed
cut them
Fox, it
out.
does remind me of a Zindi weapon on
Mhm.
Then
Yes.
in Enterprise.
That's
yeah.
exactly what I was thinking of, by the way, when I
Trist,
said that.
what do you think about beam
Yeah,
weapons?
I agree with everything you said. I just hope they stick to big beam weapons, to big ships, and not to neither small ships nor even, especially not handheld, because
Well,
I think
that's
this
already
It's already in game.
that's already out the window. It's already
Oh.
out the window.
Is it?
The defender's got them, and the Volt's got them, and the new Volt SMG's got one, but it splits in two. They're already all there, mate.
Yeah, the new Volt rifle that was in.
Oh
for
no, I haven't seen it in action.
I run round going unlimited power because it feels
Yeah,
like
I don't like that.
Emperor shooting lightning out of his
Yeah,
fingers, but it's in a gun.
Yeah, it's a lightning gun. Is what it is. It's not really like a laser beam in terms of like straight. It's more of a lightning arc that goes around. and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Looks silly to me. If
Yeah.
all the people run well with these laser beams, I wanted to see on big capital ships, and I want to see that with Maelstrom, like actually cutting stuff.
Killing stuff.
I would like when the Storm originally dropped, I honestly thought it was going to have a lightning gun on it. I thought that would have been mad.
Mhm.
And now that they've gone back and added that a ballistic cannon to the Nova, I want them to do that to the Storm.
Look at
Because I actually want a
look at the
lightning
Volt
gun on the Storm.
Look at the Volt weapon that was concepted for the Titan suit, the combat Titan suit.
Yeah.
It's definitely a
exactly.
Volt weapon, or it has this lightning
Yeah.
charge coming off of it. So yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
can you remember how they talk about when the Storm? They said it sneaks behind enemy lines
Mhm.
and very quickly disables all the artillery. My brain went, that'd be amazing because as soon as you just run through them all
Arc it.
and shoot a distortion
Yeah.
weapon, and it just arcs through all the mortars, and they all just get disabled for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So the whole crew can just come in and get them back or whatever. That sounded amazing to me. Anyway.
Anyway, let's move on. We've got 4 questions left. Cody Fox asks, regarding Execute's point about spectrum problems, there were 2 huge threads of people complaining because the Idris tour floating in atmosphere breaks immersion. Does CIG just need to take a firmer hand in removing threads so actual communications can get through? No. I disagree. Here's the problem. It's the Reddit mod problem.
Yes.
If you try to remove threads that are pointless or that don't make sense or breaking rules, you're seen as a tyrant. Even if to you, it's quite logical. This thing doesn't make sense. The reason why everyone makes fun of Knight Rider CIG is because Knight Rider has to be the bad guy who takes down these threads that are pointless, or like is literally like, you just said something that could get us fucking fired or get fucking sued, because they have to legally manage these forums, because it's like a legal issue when it comes to managing what's being said. I forgot what it is in the United States, but it's not just a United States law issue. It's also a European law, and there's lots of different countries that have laws about.
Kind of falls under freedom of speech, though, doesn't it?
It does, and that's where it's the tricky part, where it's like, because it's a private entity, and if you say something the wrong way, so they're going to already take a hard stance on banning people, or not banning people, on removing threads that are disruptive. So even if it's just a logical, reasonable, like, of course you'd want to remove that thread, someone's going to see that as personal persecution and lose their fucking mind over it.
Yep.
And then you've got a problem where they're going to post more. So instead of one thread, have 7 threads with that dude and his 4 friends who are posting the same thing over and over again, that you now have to go play whack-a-mole for the next 3 days. Sometimes you just let the crazy people rant on the street. That way they stay on the street, and you can confine them to 1 thread rather than to like 7.
I just want to say really quickly,
downvote them so they disappear.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. That's why, because we're adults, we need to be able to police ourselves, and right now we can't do that.
Yeah.
That's why nobody goes there, because we can't police ourselves.
People are saying,
as a community, I mean,
people are saying freedom of speech doesn't exist on private forums. Yeah, but the point,
it doesn't. It also doesn't exist in a lot of countries, but. I'm just talking from a legality, like it is a legal right in the United States, as an example. And
there's I forgot the name of it. It's a specific section that deals with how you moderate speech on private forums, because it's more than just freedom of speech. It's a matter of legal, what you're saying. Like, you can't just go onto a forum and plot to overthrow the United States. That's against the US law. You can't say some things that would be illegal to say in public just because you say it in anonymous. So it's a
bit like
there's a limit,
like us
and they
as
have to
teachers.
manage it. Yeah.
It's a bit like us as teachers. If a student tells us something that is reportable,
Mhm.
we have to report it, even if the student says, "Oh, please don't tell anyone." It's a matter of law,
Mhm.
So it's that type of thing. It's freedom of speech is not absolute. With great privilege comes great responsibility, I suppose.
That's why you say it in private. But CIG's Spectrum is not a private forum. It is a public forum.
Yeah.
So,
and it needs to be able to act like one, and right now it's just it's not.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the question of, like, do they just need to remove things? It's like it's a battle. It's a constant balancing battle of, like, it's like, for instance, when people say shit in comment sections, YouTube will flag some of those, especially if it's egregious. And I have to be like, is this YouTube just being overly aggressive, or is this YouTube, or did this person just say a bunch of slurs in chat, which are in there, which could get me reported, or other issues like that, or make other people feel uncomfortable? And so it's just a matter of, like, the floating Idris thing bugs me too, but that's more of and for me it's more of a solution. It's a temporary solution because it's an alpha. Like, would they think about having that in, like, a platform or some visual way of saying that would be there? Yes, they would in the final game, but it's alpha.
It's docked, and it's taking energy from the building. That's
whatever. Who cares?
That's why Jenna Tenek says it. It doesn't have to be. Oh no, that wasn't him. Sorry, was it? No, Del Elner says remove the worst, but we just need the downvote button.
Yeah,
like, it's a multi-pronged approach, is what I'm saying. Like think about the amount of work the mods would not have to do if most of the community was essentially crowdsourcing the moderation, because that's what it is. We'd be moderating ourselves. They would have so much less work to do, and we would all be so much happier, because we I guarantee, if they, like, and I've said this in the past, if they actually just tested it, right? And I tell you, one of the problems is, I know Knight Rider doesn't want downvote errors. I've talked to him about it. He doesn't want them, and until that changes, or they're even prepared to test it, it's just never going to be the place they want it to be, because because people feel they can't be heard, because if I get in there first and I put something up there and yours just sticks there, I can just I'm
you know why he doesn't? That sounds like such a simple solution. Why are they against it?
Well, because they said they don't want people to feel like they're dogpiled on. Again, it's snowflake treatment.
Basically,
it's a great idea or idealistic thing, but it's just not how the world works.
They don't want to be negative. They don't want people to feel like they're being targeted by the community for their opinions. But
unfortunately, well, again, Paul, I'll put this to you, because I know you're the way you are. Is that not the best way to tell someone that they're wrong? Anonymously, with a little downvote arrow.
In this context, yes. But yeah.
Well, in another how is the other way to do it? Because what happens
is, tell them they're wrong and move on,
and explode at them, and you see it though. You see these people that get banned because they can't control themselves, and they essentially explode at the other person because they've got no way to downvote them.
The one issue I can see is targeted harassment. It can easily lead to targeted harassment, where I know there are people on Spectrum right now who are seen as white knights, and every time they post anything on the Spectrum, they immediately get people dogpile on them, and it's like, and so if they were, every time they posted they got downvoted, they would feel like they would have to leave the community or change their entire...
No, but because again, that would be Knight Rider's job to go in, and he could artificially elevate it.
But that would also
I would see that as a mod's job. I don't know if you agree with that.
That's more work. Again, you just said that it would be easier to work.
But like at the moment, all he's doing is deleting shit, right?
Yeah.
So it would become a more passive approach, where he goes back and he's just looking at the outliers. Why is there so many negative? Because they'd have all that statistics. He could see the ones that are really popular. He could see the ones that are really negative, and he could also see ones that are essentially filtering bad words and all that type of shit.
Yeah,
it would actually make his job easier, not harder.
Yeah, also they have this problem right now where they can shitpile on them with comments. It's not that they get that from downvotes.
Yeah.
The facepalm emoji has become the downvote arrow, but it carries no weight.
Yeah. The answer is public forums suck, and I hate Spectrum, and I don't think there's any way you can actually fix it.
Yeah.
I think downvote arrows is a band-aid, because the other problem is that legitimately there are people in the community who should have been banned 10 years ago for being toxic jackasses who are never going to get banned because CIG is afraid of banning them, causing more problems.
They've banned a lot of people. I know a guy that got banned, and he got banned for 10 years back in 2014, and he got back last year.
Yeah. Well, also, and our architect also say filter bad words every single time any filter discussion comes up. The threads in Spectrum I've seen of people being like, "Grow up." Let me say my awful opinion word. Let me say a swear word. I want to say the hard R, and you have to deal with it, snowflake, or some stuff like that. It's
no.
There are some awful people in the community who want to be complete jerks about it and think it's funny or serious. I don't know. But it always, whenever someone's like, please, some basic amount of so I can mute somebody who's in chat just being a jackass, and it's like people lose their mind about censorship.
But even a reporting tool so you can bring a post to Night Rider's attention. Report this post.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, the
basic functionality is just not there.
This, but
we're
getting off topic, though.
The bigger problem with Spectrum, though, is the fact that they want Spectrum to be the in-game tool we use as well.
That's true.
Never going to happen. They're talking about this integration of putting the two together. I'm sorry, I'll use the in-game, but I'm just never going to Spectrum. Why would I do that when I got Discord and Discord? I don't have to put up with the sea of bullshit that's in Spectrum.
Yeah.
That's why no one goes there.
Yep. Oh, I'm not arguing. I'm just pointing out what CIG envisaged Spectrum would be.
I'm not going to call it Spectrum anymore. I'm going to call it Fetch.
But my biggest issue is not the floating Idris. My biggest issue is that flag that does, it's not
using Starcloth.
It's not Chris Cloth.
Yeah.
We've got this blowing, gusting, howling wind, and UE flag is
just stand. It's the same. Well, it's the same flag that they've copy pasted everywhere. It has no give to it.
All you have to do is turn on the thrusters for the Idris, and it solves that problem.
That flag won't move. I want to see that flag flapping in the wind. I want it to have that Chris Roberts fabric.
I do too.
Also, I was shot in the hall yesterday. There are still more important problems, I believe.
You were shot in the hall?
I was. Everyone was. It was terrible. It was a massacre. It was terrible.
Was it players or was it NPCs going apeshit?
No, it was players.
Because that's something I've seen NPCs go apeshit, just start shooting randomly too. So,
I was surprised
the NPCs didn't even shoot back. They were alerted, but they didn't fight back.
Yeah, Paulie was trying to sort Evercrack on the Idris, so the guards were onto him. So.
All right, so we got 3 questions left. We got the big one, which I'll wait for the end. John Chavs asks, if all you are into debunking / bad info ideas, why did none of you object horribly to the Fury carrier? I swear, it's almost as bad as X's fever dream of the storm turning in midair. Storm turning in midair?
When we were talking about the in-air thruster things, yeah. I don't know what he's talking about now. Because we originally thought the storm could be like the tumbler from Batman.
Oh,
it looked like a tumbler from
Batman. It did kind of look like that.
Who asked this question, by the way?
John Shaves.
Okay.
On YouTube.
Sorry, I'm just adding you to the blacklist.
You've been banned. You've been banned by Knight Rider Execute.
Yeah.
Why do I like a Fury carrier? Because Starfarer as a Fury carrier would be awesome.
Also, this isn't an Infrarunner's unique thing. I've heard this from so many people in the community who wanted especially when the Fury first came out, they wanted literally on my Discord, in my Discord, somebody posted a Fleet Viewer image of the Idris hangar to figure out how many Furies could fit in a fucking Idris.
We mentioned the star the imagine if the Starfarer you could take off the pods and put on Furies as turrets, and literally 24 hours later someone had a 3D model of it.
Yeah,
they'd rip the balls off
And-
the things of the back and put the turrets on.
yeah,
And like we said, the idea of having the Furies as the turrets on a ship, we mentioned that to John and Ben, and they said, "Yeah, we love that idea."
Yeah,
We tried
they were
to do
really enthusiastic. I remember Ben talking enthusiastically about it. They
And
may
they-
come back
they wanted
to
to do
Have
it.
to wait.
But I reckon they will come back to it. They tried to do it. I'm pretty certain that was on the Starlancer. They tried to do it, and that just didn't
Yeah,
work.
it was.
And I think you can see
It was on the tag.
elements of that still. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, they love that.
I'll give you a perfect example of why this is big. StarCraft's Protoss carrier. That's what people want.
Oh, that's correct. Oh wow.
Yeah,
What is it called?
the Protoss carrier from
wow.
StarCraft.
Yeah. Damn.
Only the difference is the
That's
Protoss
so
carrier
good.
doesn't use fighters; it uses drones. So it's like,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, that's basically what people want. Is that the carrier which comes out and then it just goes pew pew pew, and like 60 different like drones come out and shoot things, and it's what they want is the Protoss carrier from StarCraft, but in a ship in Star Citizen.
Carrier has arrived.
Yeah,
And the
Carrier
nice
has
thing is
arrived.
they are all manned, so as many things as you've got those crew manning them, and that gives the crew something to do. You know, do we keep them as turrets, or do we launch them to give chase? You know, so, yeah.
All right, so we've got two more questions. One's from Gin and Tonic, which I think is pretty easy, who asks, do you think the C8X/R will fit in the tax hangar? The answer is no. Trist, you said you looked it up, the dimensions?
Of the
TAC hangar.
Of the Ironclad. No, of the Ironclad hangar.
Oh.
I didn't look at the tag. But the answer is still no.
Yeah. It is based, it is exclusive. I think they even said it, is that it only will fit the Fury. They build it so it's so
They've even done
precise.
a little outline of a ship. It's a Fury, outline on
that
the
has
hangar
been
floor.
tested already. That has been tested. I haven't done. Yeah, people have tested it already.
Yeah, and Star Jump is jumping in there and saying the C8 does not fit.
We missed a couple more questions here. I forgot about this. Agent 1213 says, why are they giving out updates on ships being worked on, but no mention of the Ironclad? They mentioned the Ironclad in the March monthly report. So if you read the monthly reports, they mention the updates. So the Ironclad has been mentioned.
Oh, but I
What
think
did
they
it
are
say?
specifically talking about the last IC and also the last report. I think in the last report it was not mentioned.
It wasn't in the last report. It was the one before that.
Yeah.
What did they say about it? Where was it up to?
It's in Gray Box. I think it was just making its way through Gray Box. So, and the answer is, if it's making its way through Gray Box, it's
Still making its way through Grey Box.
months away. The Gray Box, Lot 0, final art, release. 4 different steps. And if it's not out of Gray Box yet, then it's not ready for release. So,
Or the exterior is ready and they put it in the hall just to have something cool on the drag day.
it could be.
True.
They've done that in the past.
Okay. And I think I missed one other one, which was About the Verse asks, do you think the Idris will be released to test out large fleet battles in the PU prior to 1.0? To get everything tested and set up for a big audience? That's an easy answer. Yeah, of course they're going to release the Idris before 1.0. 1.0 is not coming out until after Squadron. So.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to leave this up to you. I'm going to step away for 2 seconds. X. Sam V4AA asks, what do you think the RSI Meteor is, and what classification of ship? Go for it, X.
All right. So I talked to Grok, and I did post this in a chat earlier. Where is it, Tris? I'm gonna have to find it again. So I talked to Grok, and basically I asked it a whole bunch of series of questions on what do you think it would be based on the ships made by RSI. It listed all the ships made by RSI. It was actually quite thorough and kind of scary. And I did link this to Grim and to Tris in our little group chat. And essentially, after I went through everything, the final concept it came out with was RSI Meteor as a courier scout, a small single pilot ship for rapid courier missions, data, small cargo or passengers, or light exploration and scouting. It features a high-speed and maneuverable rival racing ship like the M50, small cargo bay, e.g. 4 to 8 SCU for high value goods or data drives, advanced sensor for scanning, jump points and anomalies, lightweight, e.g. size, 2 guns, self-defense, but not combat focused. The design is sleek with a glowing Fury aesthetic inspired by the Meteor's trail. Affordable, likely priced between $60 to $100. Gameplay perfect for solo running, blah, blah, blah. So, long story short, that sounded to me like an advanced starter, like above the Aurora, but below the Zeus type of thing. And I thought that was kind of cool. And also, if you kind of think through the naming metrics of Meteor, that is a lot smaller than an asteroid, as an example. So it does imply a smaller ship as well. So yeah, it could be anything, but I think it definitely means that it's a smaller ship, and it is Grok, so it could goddamn be so wrong. But I just again, if I provided you with the 3 or 4 other images that I provided to Triss and Starjump, like it actually goes through almost step by step in its thinking process, and it's eerily scary the amount of information it knows. And when I just sat there and logically thought about it myself, it made a lot of sense. It's not going to be accurate. I just want to say that from the get-go. It's probably most likely not that. But that said, a ship coming this year, and them working on another ship. They've obviously been working on this from way back when they started doing the Polaris and stuff like that. So it's in that time frame.
All right.
What about you, Paul? What do you think it'll be if you had to guess?
A heavy fighter.
Why do you think it's heavy fighter? Because of like a meteoroid strike?
Because they talked about how they were working on an RSI heavy fighter.
Oh, so you think it's that Mantis thing?
Yeah.
Yep.
That Agra's obsessed with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Was it a Mantis? Was it a heavy fighter or light fighter?
So in the code about 12 months ago now, they had a Mantis EMP.
Yeah. I think it's that. I think it's that one.
And that kind of pans out, because if it's end of the year, that would be 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And they did talk about when there was that episode where they had the ship guys on. The one guy was saying he'd been working on an RSI heavy fighter.
Yep.
Based on the Mantis.
That's true. That's true.
So
that
that's
makes a lot.
Actually,
I think you're right. Actually, now I'm connecting some few dots. But see, this is again why you talk in a group, because things rattle out.
But I wanted you to get it out there. I wanted you to tell your theory.
No,
and get it there.
It's okay. And I even said it was most likely wrong.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of cool to speculate with an IA. I haven't been able to do that before. And how many times do I reach out to you guys and they're like, I can't, I'm at work.
Yeah.
I do it to Grim. I do it to everyone. I just reach out and go, I need to get this out of my head. Like a crazy person.
Yep.
So someone's saying, check this Chinese SCL. I just literally just watched it. The Chinese SCL just said it was called the Meteor. That was it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, as people are pointing out, Meteor is a powerful missile equipped on Herman and French fighter jets. It was also a British jet fighter, an early British jet fighter.
British jet fighter, yep.
So the Meteor. So its name convention makes sense. It also is a celestial object, which a lot of RSI ships are named after celestial objects, like constellation.
Given the way that the P-52 was named after the Merlin engine and that you could almost see the Meteor being a British plane, being a Kruger ship in that sense.
Yeah,
I'm not saying, but that's really stretching the logic at that point. But yeah, I think it's a Mantis ship. I like the idea of it being that ship is just such a cool looking ship.
But it could have started out as a Mantis, and they just modified the shit out of it too. That's why it probably showed up as EMP Mantis, and then they modified it, because that's often how they do things. They find something close and then just modify the shit out of it.
Yep,
it works out easier that way.
That's how the Paladin and the Asgard are being made. They're not Vanguards, but they're close enough that they share a lot of the geometry with them. So
so back when I used to do models and stuff, I would often have a base human model that I'd start all my models off and stuff like that. And sometimes I'd just grab the previous character I'd been working on, because it's far quicker to just start with what you have and modify off it than rebuild the whole thing. And again, the same thing with the kit bashing and stuff like that. It gives you the idea and you can just move off it and then go back in and refine.
Yep.
Well,
Go ahead, Trist.
I think regarding everything you said about the name, I think the Asgard has just shown us that the names are sometimes just names.
Yeah.
And they are not
Yep.
what we expect them to be. It could be anything. And when I
How's
heard
that?
Meteor, Sorry?
It's the home of the gods, but it wasn't there a thing. It carries something as well. I can't remember.
yeah,
I
but it's a
remember
pretty tiny home of the
About-
gods, right?
Yeah.
I would have expected something like Kraken size
You
as
have
home of the gods.
clearly not seen Avengers. God.
Asgard. Listen, Asgard is a state of mind, not a place. Okay. That's what
Yeah,
it
but
is.
it's a big state of mind and not like a.
And the Valkyries take you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what I was thinking of was the small salvager they talked about
Yeah.
a few months ago.
Yeah.
and
That one.
I looked back at why I did that, why I thought about that, and I just brought up the image. I have it behind my head here. One of them, actually, to me, that looks like a tiny little meteor with
Yeah, I can see it.
with a big fiery ball and then some trails behind it.
Yeah.
Could be right.
Mm.
That's your
Yeah,
fireball.
I could see it.
Meteor.
I could see
Absolutely.
I could see an RSI miner being a small miner, being a meteor, because it takes apart meteors or asteroids. Yeah.
Adds the little trails behind it. Yeah, so as it comes into the atmosphere, it looks like a meteor. Yeah, I could say that. Absolutely.
Also, he
Enough.
said this year, and this is already, I mean, in the works
Yeah.
for at least a bit. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Enough
that's true.
rope
And
to hang ourselves.
that heavy fighter that they talked about was only in concept. So then again,
Yeah,
it seemed like the Kruger light fighter was only in concept, but it's also seems to have come out of concept because they showed off it at one of the sneak previews. They showed off the clearly like piping and like metal work of a Kruger light fighter. So who knows?
yeah, but just to be clear, I think he said it will come out this year.
Yes, it will come
He
out
did.
this year.
He did.
Yeah.
And if it's coming up this year, while they've been if they were concepting them previously, how much time have they already spent developing the ships?
Yeah.
So there's always that question in terms of that 18-month window
All right.
of development time. Anyway,
Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for Trist and X and Al for coming on and hanging out. Watch the previous segment we did. We talked a little bit about the ships coming out for Invictus, including possibly the Idris. I think I'm going to probably use the thumbnail of the comet. What is the RSI comet? As our as the nice clickbaity title for this one. But
And then make them watch the whole thing right to the end.
yes,
What an asshole.
that's me.
Yeah.
yes, he's evil. He's evil. And every time a question gets mentioned at some point, because
I missed your
put a
question
little
about
tab.
the tag. Let me see. I don't think I did. How did none of you realize the tax turrets are greater defense? Oh, that one. We already talked about that. Like I addressed that. They're great for defense escort. Stop thinking forward is the only way places enemies are. That's what I was saying earlier. That's why I clicked it off, because it was literally what I talked about in terms of like it's designed. The way it's designed doesn't matter as much as Axe is saying. But
It's designed for a different role. But I just think, why wouldn't you make it so it can do that role and another role?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking more multi-function rather than just a specific role.
Yeah.
And that's what shits me. A lot of the ships are deliberately nuded. Another example is the fact that the Starlancer has this giant thing on top of it just so the turret can't aim forward.
Yeah.
Like just little things like that. And that's not just that ship. There are other ships that do that as well. The Freelancer does it as well. It has a thing on top of it so the back turret can't shoot forward. Just no one would do that in real life. You always want to create advantages, not disadvantages.
Yeah. And Escape, I skipped your question about hopium because I have no idea what the context was, and I was just going to move on. Because Escape said, like, why are all Star Citizen, content creators hopium dens now? It's like,
we're dreamers. That's why we're dreamers.
Yeah.
It's like
we wouldn't have backed the game this early if we were anything else.
Yeah.
All right. With that, thank you for watching. Make sure you check this out. If you didn't like this, hit that follow button on Twitch. subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit the like button to tell YouTube to like this thing, to give you more information like this. And let me know in the comments below any of your answers for or own questions for any of these. I try to read all the comments. I don't always get a chance to respond to everything, but I do try to read all of them. Yeah, thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday.